to time in my dreams. I do this for you. I do this for my mother, who's finally clean, no longer a fan. I do this for you. I do this for my sister, my wife and my kids, cause they part of the team. I do this for all the naysayers and haters who made me one of the greatest. I know it kills you inside, that's why I do this for you. I do this for my father, who I've only seen from time to time in my dreams. I do this for you. I do this for my mother, who's finally clean, no longer a fan. I do this for you. I do this for my sister, my wife and my kids, cause they part of the team. I do this for all the naysayers and haters who made me one of the greatest. I know it kills you inside, that's why I do this for you.
I do this for the kids who sit a bit outside the mix, who maybe cope through humor just to fit in for a bit, who never let the world know when depression's setting in. To all of those who know you, that impression don't exist, and it ain't counterfeit, it's just a way to counter it. I'm living things I dreamed about, I still encounter it. It ain't something that a cigarette or alcohol can fix, but all because of it, I flipped it quick, went on to write some hits. This a success, off another breath. This the first step in searching to be nothing less than be the best in what you do to prove their strength in being you. Learn so much in chasing dreams that I never would in school. Depends on where your passion lie, just no passion never lie. Life presents distractions, but your actions have to fortify. The things that you believe in have to scream it like a battle cry, and leave the ones who didn't looking stupid while they're asking why. Couldn't lie, I really do this for the ones I love. Those who treat the music as a vice and lyrics like a drug. Those who need advice on how to lift their spirit high enough to break out of the box they make of lives they know aren't good enough. Just because it's how it is don't mean it's how it has to be. This is what the uninspired testifiers fail to see. Jealousy results from being that which others fail to be, and if it means you're not with me, that honestly sounds fair to me.
I do this for my father, who I've only seen from time to time in my dreams. I do this for you. I do this for my mother, who's finally clean, no longer a fan. I do this for you. I do this for my sister, my wife and my kids, cause they part of the team. I do this for all the naysayers and haters who made me one of the greatest. I know it kills you inside, that's why I do this for you.
Do this for my mother, she'll be working for the summer. Do this for my father, cause these days I often wonder what my life would have been like if I was not adopted. To grow up in a home where I was treated like a problem. I don't know, it's just a guess. Your guess probably good as mine. Lucky that I grew up in a home that wanted me to shine. Lucky that I grew up around some mountains we were taught to climb. Without that inspiration, I don't think that this would be my life. Do this for my friends who've scattered all across the country now. I'm out in Sweden walking back through life so I can write it down. Make a living off of sound, so crazy to say out loud. I'm the biggest thing since Travis Rice to come up out the town. Sorry, gotta stunt a little. Used to have my dreams belittled, but it's all a part of it. I know people's minds are fickle, lines between reality and dreams I blur like faded nights. Come up been so good for me, I wish that I could make it twice.
I do this for my father, who I've only seen from time to time in my dreams. I do this for you. I do this for my mother, who's finally clean, no longer a fan. I do this for you. I do this for my sister, my wife and my kids, cause they part of the team. I do this for all the naysayers and haters who made me one of the greatest. I know it kills you inside, that's why I do this for you.
Shout out to my pops, man. I do this for you. What up, Big T? Happy New Year, guys. Thanks for being here. I know it's, I know what it is. It's New Year's Eve. I got to make myself slightly smaller so I don't block it. There we go. We don't block what's going on. Hey, and welcome back, guys. It's been a long road. I've been working every day. If you guys don't know and you're not an MVP, I work on bowl games, picking games and doing things of that nature. That's what you see scrolling at the bottom of the screen. But for those of you who are only here for the transfer portal data, let's stay focused. I want to talk about the transfer portal and all the players and everything that's going on. But just so you guys understand the format, okay? I do position groups in every single one of these podcasts. So every podcast I do, if you go to the live tab on YouTube, that's how you get here. But if you search the live tab on YouTube, you will find all my different episodes. And I've done an episode on the quarterbacks. I've done an episode on the running backs. Wide receivers and tight ends, I combined them. Offensive linemen, defensive linemen, linebackers, and the secondary. And now we're back for round 2. So what happens is when I make the video on that particular day, I talk about the transfer portal, all the players in the portal at that time that have committed to schools. I want to make that very clear. I don't talk about players when they enter the portal because I really don't care that someone entered the portal. If I did that, all of my episodes would be about speculation, right? They wouldn't even necessarily be about the results or where people are going. It would just be a bunch of rumor talk. And I don't do that. I'm not ESPN. I'm not Rivals. I don't give a shit if somebody's down to their top 3 or top 4. That doesn't even intrigue me in the slightest. What I like to do is wait till a player has committed somewhere. Theoretically, that's a 95% lock at that point, right? They verbally or they've written and committed. At that point, I then assess the decision that player has made, their fit in that program, why they made the decision. Oftentimes, it's not like, well, I'm getting no playing time and I want to go there. The primary reason for transfers is they want to go somewhere where there's a pro pedigree. They want to play in a Power 5 conference. They want to play for a particular coach and within a scheme they trust. They want to move closer to home, right? There's all these different reasons why they enter the transfer portal, but everybody labels it a bunch of non-competitive kids who just want to go somewhere where they don't have to compete for playing time. That's not true at all. They're all conference guys. There are team MVPs. There are just absolute studs that are in the transfer portal, and they're going for a better opportunity to pursue their profession, right? Now, yes, there are a number of players, once you get towards the bottom of the list, that were moving because they didn't get the right amount of playing time. There are some players at the top of the list with that same motivation, but that is not the primary motivation of the majority of the players that I've seen, just so we're clear. I'm going to tell you that these quarterbacks are currently in a list based upon 24/7's rankings, which are horrifically wrong. If you go around quoting 24/7 rankings and saying, well, we signed the number 1 player in the portal, well, we signed the number 1 player in this, you did not sign the number 1 player. You signed the number 1 player on this website. Make it very clear and make sure you quote the website that you're getting all your credit from or your take from, because one day in the future, you're going to say this is the number 1 ranked player on RicoKnows chart, just as relevant as any website you've ever been to. I intend to be a source. I intend to be at this for years upon years, and I know how accurate I am, and I know how successful I am at analyzing talent and fit for certain players. And I'm going to prove it to you guys tonight. I have a prediction that came true off of the last episode. So if you don't know, here's what I'm going to say to you guys. There are quarterbacks that have already committed to schools. There are quarterbacks that are in the transfer portal and committed that I've already talked about. I talked about, and I want to be clear, I talked about a ton of players. But more importantly, I have a chart in front of me that I'm using for my notes. And unfortunately, I have to do this because I have to know whether or not I talked about this player in the last video. So if you go to the transfer portal quarterback episode 1, you will know that I talked about 13 players that are already committed elsewhere. They're already committed elsewhere. It's pretty neat stuff, and I already talked about them in a previous video. So when their name comes up, I'm going to say something like, I already talked about this guy. You got to go watch episode 1. So if you want to know about a particular player and I don't mention them, it's because they're already in another podcast. Got to go watch that one and you'll learn about the player. Highly recommend you watch all the podcasts. While driving, while fucking knitting. I don't know what you guys do. Running on a treadmill, sleeping or laying on the couch like a slob. Whatever it is you do, watch the podcast. You'll learn a ton about these players. So without further ado, I'm going to talk about the transfer portal players in the order at which 24/7 has them. I will give you my assessment on their fit, on their talent, on how I think they're going to do at the next level or at their next school. But please understand, I give none of these rankings any validity whatsoever. None whatsoever. The number 1 quarterback in the transfer portal for me is Dylan Gabriel. That is the number 1 player. The fact that he's ranked way down here is absurd to me. I don't get that at all. He's actually ranked below somebody he's going to start over. He's going to start over Dante Moore, and they got him ranked down here. I could do the same thing. Aiden Childs is up here, number 1 guy, and there's just no way. I don't have DJ Ungalele up here, but DJ Ungalele started over him. And yet DJ's ranked somewhere way down here. The rankings are stupid. They based it all on number of years eligible, which is just ridiculous. Brock Vandergrift's never played a down of football. Brock Vandergrift has played such a minimal amount of football, and for him to be ranked ahead of Dylan Gabriel is a crime. It's a crime. These websites should be held accountable for their ridiculousness. At the same time, they miss on 5 stars every single year. They just label a guy a 5-star all the time, and no one gives a shit because they move on to the next year. So enough of that. Let's talk about these players. After I go through 10 players, I will then go back to the chat, and I will read the chat. And then I'll go back to 10 players. If the chat gets silly, I'll just ignore the chat. It's just how it gets down. So let's start talking about these quarterbacks committed to schools. Aiden Childs. Did not talk about him in episode 1, so it'll be my first time talking about him. At that time, he had not jumped in the portal. So Aiden Childs, 6'3", 200 pounds. He has 3 years of eligibility left. If you didn't know, they burned his red shirt this year, and they shouldn't have done that. They should have let him sit back and not waste his red shirt, but they wanted to keep him in the loop and make him feel like he's part of the team. I can remember he did an interview, and he said, hey, they put me ahead of Ben Gobranson. I know coaches believe in me. They believe in me. This is a young kid. Remember this. He started college at 17. So he's only 18 right now. He'll turn 19 in September. So his birthday is one of those late birthdays. So he's young. And for him, he can be very, you can impress him. You can just mold him into what you want to do. This is a kid from Northern California. They believed in Aiden Childs from the jump, though. I'll give this coaching staff credit. If you guys don't know the story, I'll rehash it here in a bit, but I got to scroll down here a little bit. Sam Levitt at Michigan State, this was the Gatorade Player of the Year in Oregon. The number 1 player in Oregon coming out of high school. And Sam Levitt was completely ignored by the Oregon State coaching staff. Completely ignored by the Oregon State coaching staff. He took it some type of way. He took it personal, and he took off to Michigan State to go play for Mel Tucker. Now, Sam Levitt's been on the bench the whole time. Never really played, and they have terrible quarterback play. But they decided, hey, we're going to keep your red shirt, Sam. Sit on the bench, relax, and we're going to play these Hauser and this Kim kid and all this other shit. But the point is that Michigan State, Oregon State, the coaching staff, Jonathan Smith and the boys, they chose Aiden Childs over Sam Levitt in high school. Okay? This is their guy. Aiden Childs played really well when it was time to play, though. Let me just be clear. He played great. So, for me, looking at a kid who threw 4 touchdowns this year, no interceptions, over 300 yards, a 68% completion percentage, I like the kid. I do. And I want you guys to understand something. He's the future for Michigan State. He's going to get every opportunity to be the starting quarterback. Good kid. 6'3", 300 pounds. Can move the rock, can do things. I actually think he's pretty solid. So, that's a good kid. Congratulations. Is he the number 1 quarterback in the portal? Not by a fucking astronomical mile. I don't even understand. He might not even be top 10 quarterbacks in the portal. But the fact that he's up here is an extreme. It's their way of saying we fucked up because we didn't give him 4 stars coming out of high school, or he's got pro potential and all this other shit. I don't care, man. Right now, today, tomorrow, he's not better than Riley Leonard ever. Okay? And there's other players. Obviously, he's not better than Dylan Gabriel. Not better than Kyle McCord. Not better than Max Brosmer. Not better than Curtis Roy. I mean, I could go down this roster of who he's not better than. But that's just the way they get down. I think it's a crime the way they have these kids ranked. There's some amazing quarterbacks down here. Giovanni McCoy, they're very similar. And he's going to Oregon State. We'll talk about it. Yeah, there's what's the kid's name from JMU? McLeod. Better than Childs. Childs ain't doing nothing like that. Anyways, Dante Moore going to Oregon. Dante Moore going to Oregon. Now, I talked about Dante Moore in episode 1, but I didn't really talk about where he was going because he hadn't committed yet. All I said was it was possible that he's either going to go to Oregon or Michigan State. Well, you see it here. He's going to Oregon. I didn't like his justification for going to Oregon. He said he's going to Oregon because they develop quarterbacks, and he wants to be properly developed. Now, I don't know if that's just a slant at Chip Kelly. You don't like the way Chip Kelly's developing you? Fine. But don't tell me Oregon's developing quarterbacks. Don't do it. I don't buy it. Is Ty Thompson developed? Ty Thompson's been at Oregon for 2-3 years now. Is he developed? He's been the backup. Austin Novosad just got there 1 year. Is he properly developed? What did Oregon do to develop quarterbacks? Who are we talking about? I know where we're going. Excuse me, guys. I have something stuck, and I can't get rid of it. So do you think Bo Nix was properly developed at Oregon? Was it by the Oregon coaching staff? I don't think so. And to show proof that they're not developing quarterbacks, what did Oregon do? They went and signed Dylan Gabriel. Are they developing Dylan Gabriel? No, they're not. I'm sorry, guys. God dang it. Can't believe I'm going through this on cam. Okay. So, Dante Moore says he's going to Oregon. Congratulations. For me, this just means Austin Novosad will never start a game at Oregon. That's a young man who flipped from Baylor to Oregon on National Letter of Intent Day last year. Probably should have went to Baylor. Baylor just got rid of Blake Chapin, just signed Daquan Finn. He's not a great starting quarterback, trust me. So it just ruins a kid's opportunity. And this just goes to show all you guys out there, if you're a late offer or a late signee to a Power 5 program, and they've gone out and signed like all these other players, and then in January, February, they start going, hey, man, we're interested in you. No, we're not interested in you. You are a backup plan. You are not who they want. They're not going to play you. And they're going to keep recruiting other players ahead of you. And they're just going to get older guys. You're not going to get developed. You're not going to get any reps at practice. I'm telling you right now, that's the way they get down. And then we got Malik Murphy. Stayed patient. Stayed at Texas. Didn't care who showed up. Some kid named Manny. Don't scare me. I'm going to stay here. 6'5", 235. He is not a dual threat quarterback. He is not Vince Young. He has a nice arm. He's a big kid. And he's just pro style all day. So this year he finally got to play 477 yards, 3 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. And it left you wondering, like, what? Is he good or not? Well, he needs time to develop. Rico, don't rush to judgment. All right, well, coaches rushed to judgment. The coaches said, hey, Quinn Ewers, come back. We know you're not 100%, but we want you playing anyways. This is a Juniper Serra kid straight out of California. So for me, going all the way across the country tells me he doesn't care where he goes to school. He just wants a chance to start. So Jonathan Brewer is the new offensive coordinator. Let me explain this to you guys. Manny Diaz is the new head coach at Duke. Manny Diaz, when he was the head coach at Miami, he said, hey, my offensive coordinator, because remember, Manny Diaz was the head coach and the defensive coordinator. So the offensive coordinator was Rhett Lashley. Rhett Lashley's now the head coach at SMU and has them on top of the world because they get every Miami transfer, right? So Rhett Lashley is a stud offensive coordinator. SMU's offense was great this year, if you didn't watch it. And Manny Diaz loves Rhett Lashley. But he can't hire Rhett Lashley at Duke. Obviously, he's the head coach at SMU. He's not leaving that. They're in the ACC now. They're in a competition. But Manny Diaz goes to Rhett Lashley and says, hey, man, who do you recommend to be our offensive coordinator? Who can do this? Because I want somebody to be our offensive coordinator that does what you do. So Rhett Lashley recommends Jonathan Brewer. Jonathan Brewer, the quarterback's coach at SMU. So SMU loses their quarterback's coach, and all he has to do is go to Duke and duplicate the Rhett Lashley offense. Pretty cool. Good luck with that. I'm excited for Jonathan Brewer getting his big break, right? You got it from somebody. Everybody's getting a job from somebody they know, a recommendation. It's a huge pay bump. I'm sure it is. But more importantly, you know, this is the good old boy network to the fullest. All coaches do is call somebody and say, hey, who do you know? This is why Coach Prime hired his 2 coordinators last year, right? Sean Lewis, came from a recommendation. Charles Kelly came from a recommendation. This is what coaches are doing. They're getting recommendations and they're getting a stamp of approval. If you guys ever called up a friend you trusted and been like, hey, you got anybody you know? And they'll give you a name. That's what happened. So Malik Murphy going to Duke. I don't know if he's that much of an upgrade from who they have at Duke. Grayson Loftus is the other kid. He was actually pretty decent, played in the bowl game. They looked good. He's looked good enough. I never really thought Malik Murphy looked elite. So I get it. You're showing up. Coach picked you. You're probably going to be ahead in the spring and ahead in all the reps and everything, but I just don't know if the desired end state is going to be what you think it is. Okay? I really don't feel that way. Riley Leonard going to Notre Dame. I talked about that in episode 1. So if you want to know about Riley Leonard going to Notre Dame, go back to episode 1, watch it, and I talked about him in there and his fit. Brock Vandergriff going to Kentucky. If you guys don't know Brock Vandergriff, BVG as they call him, Brock Vandergriff, coming out of high school, I watched him play every snap in high school here. I live in Georgia. I've lived here for 9 years now. I've watched all these players. Brock Vandergriff is as good as any of them. I think he's a stud quarterback. The fact that he never won the quarterback job at Georgia kind of bugged me. But then again, I like Gunnar Stockton. I like Carson Beck. I like all the Georgia quarterbacks. They're all very good. They should all be on the field right now starting for somebody. That's how good they are. But Brock Vandergriff playing at Prince Avenue Christian, I think he won 2 state titles, or he might have just won 1. He won 2. But this kid is a dual-threat quarterback. People don't talk about it, but he's 6'3", 205, son of a football coach, but he's got a 4.6 40 in him. I'm telling you, he used to, in high school tape, he's just running over everybody. So coming out of high school, this is the guy who came out in the same class as Caleb Williams, Quinn Ewers, Sam Heward. Like, these are the 5-star guys coming out. Brock Vandergriff's good. I'm telling you guys, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions in his time at Georgia. Always played in junk time, but the kid's good. And when they were shopping him around, they were all talking about him going to Auburn or Kentucky. And the reason he wanted to go to either school was because he wanted to stay in the SEC. Now, there are some players, I tell you guys, they don't need to transfer within the SEC. We're going to talk about one later, Swan. A.J. Swan leaving Vandy, going to LSU. What a fucking joke. But this one is warranted. This is a kid who can start anywhere, and I really like this opportunity for him. Now, his dad was shopping him around, and they were looking for an offensive coordinator they trusted. Liam Cohen, they trust. They say, hey, we like the way they develop or use transfers, things like this. Let's be clear. At Kentucky, they don't develop quarterbacks. They just try to find the next guy to be in charge. Because if they were developing quarterbacks as well as they say they are, then why isn't Destin Wade any good? Destin Wade's one of the twins that just left Kentucky to go to Colorado. And I'm telling you, Destin Wade can't play quarterback. So I don't understand where they said, well, we'd like to go to Kentucky because Liam Cohen's got a good track record of developing quarterbacks. No, not happening. You think Will Levis is the guy? Sure, he's been developed in the pros, but nothing I saw from anything they've done at the quarterback position for the last 2 years now has not impressed me at Kentucky. I hope Liam Cohen's ready because you got a stud. Brock Vandergriff's a stud. I love that kid. I like his game. Always been a fan, and I think he's a winner. I think he's a very complete quarterback. Very, very similar game to Riley Leonard. A guy who's athletic, can run, throw the ball, make good decisions. Very similar to Riley Leonard, except without the production, without the playing time, without being on the field, but I still like it. Now, somebody I don't like, DeQuan Finn, bro. DeQuan Finn, starting quarterback at Toledo for a couple years now, I think 3 years now, and he's headed to Baylor. I don't know about this move. I feel like Baylor, they really are mad at themselves for never giving Kyron Drones a shot. Obviously, we see Kyron Drones dominating at Virginia Tech. Baylor feels silly. Oh, we had a dual-threat guy, and we didn't use him correctly. So they had Blake Shapen. They put all their eggs in one basket on Shapen. Last offseason, they recognized that Shapen was a little injury-prone. So they said, we got to add quarterbacks. So they got Sawyer Robertson from Mississippi State. They got R.J. Martinez from Northern Arizona. And they said, all right, we're going to go compete with Blake Shapen. Well, it didn't work out. Blake Shapen still won the job, beat everybody out, and he's still the starter. Okay, Baylor had a terrible season. You go and lose Blake Shapen to Mississippi State, by the way. That's a swap. And out of nowhere, you think this is the guy that's going to patch up the holes that's missing? I don't see it, guys. DeQuan Finn has never impressed me. This is a Detroit, Michigan kid, won a MAC championship, threw for 2,600 yards, 22 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. But I watch MAC football. I watch every single game in America, right? I really watch the Group of Five more than anyone. And the MVPs know this. Anybody with me, you watch me live stream games on Saturday. You watch me bet on games during the week. I watch every MAC game. I know Toledo well. I know DeQuan Finn well. And he had weapons, and he just didn't utilize them the way I envisioned. Penny Boone's in that backfield with him, alleviating a lot of the pressure. Penny Boone requires 8 guys in the box, giving you one-on-one coverage outside. Are you taking advantage of it? Because Newton's open every play. I don't see him getting the ball. Not the way he should. DeQuan Finn's inaccurate. He's not the guy for me. And this is all because in 2021, DeQuan Finn went 18 touchdowns, 2 interceptions in 2021. So everybody swears by him, but for me, I just don't see it. Personally. I see a guy that just, I thought they shit the bed a couple times this year. They don't cover spreads. He doesn't play well. I'm just being real. And maybe it's the gambler in me, the capper in me, but I don't like the kid. I don't like him. I wouldn't want him on my team. That wouldn't be the guy. And I don't agree with this ranking where they put him at .91 up here among, like, have you seen Dylan Gabriel's production in a much harder conference? Dylan Gabriel, 30 touchdowns, 3,600 yards. Dylan Gabriel's number 6 quarterback in the country this year in passing yards. And you have DeQuan Finn ahead of him. I don't give a shit if they're equal in ranking. That's nuts. DeQuan Finn couldn't do anything Dylan Gabriel did in the Big 12. Nothing. If DeQuan Finn went to Oklahoma, he would be third string. He would be third string behind Jackson Arnold. He couldn't even start over this guy. Why are they equal ranked? He would sit the bench at all these schools. I watched a lot of DeQuan Quinn football. I really have. Shout out to Dylan Gabriel. This is a Hawaii kid. Started his career at UCF. Ended up transferring to Oklahoma. I thought he played great. Obviously getting a lot of pressure from a 5-star kid on the bench behind you and Jackson Arnold. We just saw what happened with that. But this kid's going to Oregon to start. And I think he's going to play well. I think he has the weapons to succeed. He's always wanted to play at Oregon. One of his heroes, right? Marcus Mariota. And he wants to play behind him and play at a university like that. More power to him. I think it's awesome. If you guys didn't know, Dylan Gabriel is only 5'11". So he is a little short. I don't know about his NFL prowess or pedigree, but I can tell you that if he plays well at Oregon in the Big Ten, I could see him playing in that new UFL, the USFL, the new UFL, XFL and USFL combined. They merged and they made the UFL. I could see Dylan Gabriel in there doing his damn thing. I think he's better than some quarterbacks in the NFL right now. There's some guys on the bench that are underwhelming. And I think Dylan Gabriel can carve out a career for 3 to 4 years somewhere in the NFL on the bench. Why not? Speaking out of carving out a career, Kyle McCord. Kyle McCord, I thought he played well this year at Ohio State. I thought he really did. And for me, Kyle McCord, he only has 1 year left. 6'3", 215 pounds. Final year, he's going to Syracuse. This is a Pennsylvania kid, state champ. But he grew up in Jersey, played in PA. But I felt like he's treated, let me give you guys a name, and you guys tell me how you feel about it. I feel like he was treated like Jalen Hurts. Treated like Jalen Hurts without being benched. Remember when Jalen Hurts went like 17-1 as a starter, something crazy. He lost one game, played out of his mind the whole time, and they still benched him for Tua. Rightfully so. If you want to bench him for Tua, bench him for Tua. And so Hurts left to Oklahoma, and he balled the hell out. I feel like Kyle McCord played well this year. You know what I'm saying? 24 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. So why were we raining on him? And you saw what happened the minute he didn't play for Ohio State. Terrible offensive output. But more importantly, shout out to Kyle McCord because he found a situation where I think he might succeed. I say might. It is a new coach. He's known Fran Brown his whole life. This is crazy. Known Fran Brown his whole life. And this is from growing up in Jersey. They just know each other. And he said, I couldn't believe it. I'm sorry, my nose is running. He said, I couldn't believe it because there's a bunch of coaches I've known my entire life. And they all came together at Syracuse. Nunzo Campanelli, known him for a decade. Fran Brown, known him for a decade. Jeff Nixon, the current running backs coach for the Giants. Jeff Nixon is slated to come back and be the offensive coordinator for Syracuse. It's a huge deal. If you guys don't know who Jeff Nixon is, Jeff Nixon was the offensive coordinator at Baylor back when Matt Rule was the head coach. Okay, so now you're going to get a guy who knows how to zip it around, knows how to get it done, and that's pretty awesome. He's known all these guys his whole life. Just the coolest thing ever. Just dumb luck. It's a dream come true for him. Shout out to Elijah Clark. He's known since high school. Shout out to all of them. It's pretty cool. So, just something there. I think the opportunity is awesome. 1 year, go do your best. There are players on the bench at Syracuse that play quarterback that are just atrocious. Carlos Del Rio Wilson will never amount to anything at quarterback, and it's no hard feelings to that young man, CDRW, whatever they call him. CDRW, yeah, Carlos Del Rio Wilson. So I watched him play in high school, and I watched him transfer, and he went to, who's the tall kid? Who's the quarterback for the Jaguars right now? You guys know who I'm talking about. I just drew a complete blank on Trevor Lawrence. So he went to Trevor Lawrence's high school for his final year. Then he obviously went to Florida. Didn't work out. Now he's transferred to Syracuse. Not working out. I don't think he'll ever play. Davies won't ever play. And Syracuse obviously has no other quarterbacks. Gross quarterbacks. So it's Kyle McCord's job. I'm going to go to the chat. I'm sorry for coughing all over you guys. But I want to say one thing. I already talked about Will Rogers in the previous episode, so if you want to learn about him, go back and watch the episode. I already talked about Tyler Van Dyke. Go back and watch it, and we'll be on Max Brosmer. I did talk about him in the last episode. If you go back and watch quarterback episode 1. But I talked about him, but I didn't talk about where he was going because he wasn't committed yet. So I'm going to add some flavor to that. But let me get to the chat, and we'll go from there. Sultan of SWAT says, first time looking at these 24/7 rankings, my lord, they must have been blind men watching tape. It's not based on tape. There's no way. I don't know what their metrics are, but there's no way it's on tape because these guys are not good. All the 24/7 guys are switching to On3 who cover Mississippi State, so we may want to start whose rankings look less trash. Yeah, I don't even mess with On3. I only look at them for transfer portal inbound and outbound pictures. Pictures, guys. Pictures, that's it. But you have to look at all the websites and concatenate and combine them all to get an accurate answer. Or just come to my channel and just watch me because I have everybody. They don't have everyone. This list doesn't have every quarterback. I mentioned quarterbacks that aren't on this list, and they're still not on this list. I can go back to my old chart here and tell you guys some quarterbacks that aren't even listed here at all. No matter where you look. Colin Gaither from South Carolina, Tanner Bailey, South Carolina, Deshaun Jennings, Akron. They're nowhere on this list whatsoever. Stone Hollenbach from Western Michigan, Santonio Mauricio from Wake Forest, Hunter Helms, Clemson, Roman Fuller, Tulsa, Jared Guest, Coastal Carolina, Gavin Rupp, Rutgers, Andrew Body, Texas Southern. Like, I got everybody, bro. It's nuts how they don't have these people listed. I could even look and see, like, they just don't have them. They don't care. They just kind of list some players. It's crazy because people will go to these websites and think they are looking at facts. You're not looking at facts. You're looking at just a slight picture, like a little slight sliver of the truth. That's the reality. I'm here to give you the truth, unbiased, uncut, just straight up. Did I say uncut? Pause. But anyways, let me see where I was at on my notes here. Let me go back over here to you guys. All right, chat. Do you think Louisville is set at quarterback? Jonathan Lavi, yeah. I think they're set at quarterback, right? They got Shuck to transfer in. I think that's a hell of a transfer from Texas Tech. I think that's probably what they were looking for. They have another kid, Harrison Bailey, preferred walk-on this year from former Tennessee kid. He played at Marietta here in Georgia. Went to UNLV for a couple years. Can't really play all that much. They had Brock Dorman. Is that his name? Dorman? I think it. Not an R. There's no R. Doman. They have the kid from St. John Bosco, the little dual threat kid. They don't really like him though. I know he'll never play. He's going to transfer, and when he transfers, I'm going to do an I'm right video because I made a video telling you they'd never use him. Forgetting his name right now. I have so many names in my head because I do this stuff all day. It's hard for me to get a question like that off the cuff and name the entire depth chart, but I can do it. The reality is they already found their transfer. Tyler Shuck's going to be their starter. There is nobody else to worry about. They also have Brady Allen, the transfer from Purdue. It's unfortunate. Followed his coach to go to Louisville, and they don't care. They don't care. They are in the business of getting the best players they can. They are wasting kids' careers. He told Brady Allen, follow me from Purdue. Come over here. I'll give you a shot to start someday. Not getting a shot at all. They're just going to keep grabbing transfers that are better than him and never give him a chance to start. He should have never transferred. The Braun brothers are ruthless, bro. I've talked to some quarterbacks. Let me make this clear. I talked to a quarterback who left Louisville last year. I talked to him and his father on the phone at length, and they explained to me the exit meeting in the spring with the Braun brothers, with Jeff and Brian Braun, and it was ruthless. And it was, hey, man, we don't see you getting any reps at practice. You should probably leave. And that's pushing kids through the portal. And thank you for being honest, but why weren't you honest with Brady Allen? Right? Why weren't you honest with Brady Allen? Because he's not going to get a chance. You keep bringing in other quarterbacks, you're not going to give him a chance. It sucks. Who do you think is the new defensive coordinator for Colorado will be? Carroll, I really don't care personally. I try not to guess at these things. Everybody's naming it somebody with an NFL pedigree, all because Reed said that shit. I don't care. I'm more interested in the players on the field, but I hope they find a solution. I hope they find a coach, and they get that fixed. I know that Coach Prime is trying to make everything black at Colorado, and the blatant racism to fire white people or get them out of there because he only wants black people. For me, I believe that is the most glaring thing that no one will address. No one will talk about it. I will. I'm a supporter of Colorado. I'm a supporter of Coach Prime, but I don't think anyone should get the job because of the color of their skin, and I definitely don't want to see an entire coaching staff disregard white candidates because they're not who you identify with, right? When I start hearing players like Seton say, why would you want to play with somebody who don't look like you or something to that effect, all of this should not be condoned. We should be identifying individuals who are the best at the job, best for the job, and not people who make you feel most comfortable. You know, I see head coaches argue with their coordinators all the time. All the time. I remember seeing one, Coach Taylor at Western Michigan, was going ham on his defensive coordinator. It was pretty epic. And I remember thinking, those two do not get along. They're going to break up. Nope, they're still together. Coaching staff still intact. They're all right. And I think that Coach Prime is just out there looking for people who get down with him, who are in his circle, and that's great and all. But I hope you're looking for the best candidate for the job. I hope you're not just trying to do splash hires and big names. Big names do not recruit well. Big names do not understand the day-to-day job. They're just big names. Like, it's cool. You're getting a pro. I want to tell you they should be identifying individuals who are fringe pros. Let me try to explain this. Here's where it's at. When I talk to players and coaches, it's all the same thing. You can only learn from somebody who's been exposed to the game at the highest level, but had to work really hard to get there. I want you to think about that. Who's one of the best coaches in the NBA? Point guard. Let's go with Steve Kerr. Steve Kerr is a hell of a coach. The results speak for themselves. You might not like him. You might not think he's that great. But Steve Kerr, Mark Jackson, both pretty damn good coaches. You know who's not a good coach? Allen Iverson. And I can tell you why. And it's because Allen Iverson can naturally do what he would try to teach you. Right? So Allen Iverson can't teach anybody how to do a crossover because he can just naturally do it. He never had to learn the fundamentals. He never had to work about this, that, or the other. Allen Iverson will say, put the ball in this hand, take the dribble low, bring it to this hand. When you jab step, boom, boom. And Allen Iverson will demonstrate it all day. But he can't get you to do it because he doesn't quite comprehend or understand, why can't you do what I can do? Right? But if you go and find that one guy who had to work on his crossover just to make the team, that guy can teach you the fundamentals of it and explain to you how he taught himself how to do it and how others do it. This is why Pete Carroll's such a good coach. He was a very fringe level defensive back, but he learned so much about it that he could then teach others. Right? But you don't want to take the greatest at any position and say, that guy can teach me how to be at that position. No, he can't. The greatest at any position is exceptional in himself. He's an exceptional individual. Coach Prime can't teach you how to run a 4.240. He can run a 4.240. He can break on the ball and trick a quarterback into thinking the player's open. He can break on it and come back and get out of his back pedal and get that interception. Coach Prime can do that. You can't duplicate what he can do. And he can't teach you how to do what he does. The best coaches are fringe level pros or got exposure to the game at that level, and then they go out and learn all the fundamentals. And then this is for everybody at every echelon. It is very rare for a star player to be successful as a coach. Very rare. Isaiah Thomas, Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, these guys could not be coaches because you can't duplicate what they're telling you to do. Dude can't teach you how to do a fadeaway jumper. He's not going to teach you how to fly from the free throw line. Shaq's not teaching big men how to box out. He's physically capable of doing it, but he can't teach somebody on the fringe of being able to do it how to do it. But then when you go and get those role players, those Juwan Howards, they can teach you. You got to pay attention to who the coaches are. It's always a role player. And then the last thing I'll say is not every star player wants to be a coach. You got to live that lifestyle. You got to be a coach, you got to eat, breathe, sleep, shit coaching. Players want to play, go to practice, and then live their life and use their money and enjoy that life and go on vacation and have a good life. They don't want to just grind in the box and do what they're doing. That's not where they're at. They're not watching tape all day, every day. Very few players are sitting around looking forward to the next film breakdown and getting ready and scouting the next opponent all off season. Very few players live in that world. So this is why coaches don't have it. Like they don't have that gene in them to be amazing players, but they can be amazing teachers of the game. So I never bought this whole notion where they say, Coach Prime is going to get all the best corners and teach them all the best. No, Coach Prime is not demonstrating any back pedals. He's not teaching them all the best. Yeah, he talks about, hey, when you jam, you want to be looking here, you want to be aligned here. Remember, you want to do this, do that. But it doesn't matter what Coach Prime teaches them. When they get in the game, they can't duplicate what he can do. And for anyone to think that that's what his worth is or his value to a team is uninformed. Coach Prime's worth and value is his stature, right? His selling point is him. It's just the notoriety of Coach Prime being associated with your program. I don't think that is conducive to making better players. It is conducive to generating revenue. It is conducive to having a splash and an improvement and maybe even recruiting. But what it's not conducive to is developing players. Developing players comes from position coaches knowing how to improve their particular athletes. And it also comes from position coaches understanding how to make those players an extension of them on the field. If you're not an extension of your coach on the field, your coach is failing. So I just don't see it like that. When I look at defensive coordinators who should be at Colorado, like I said, I really don't care who it is. I just know that NFL players don't transition well to the college game. NFL coaches don't do well when they come down. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that in the pros, you're not focused on how to be a professional. You're focused on the scheme versus scheme, and it changes every week. That's what NFL football is. Scheme versus scheme, and it changes every week. Audibles change, reads change, all kinds of stuff changes every single week to fool one another. But what you never have to harp on is how to be a professional, because they're already all professionals. And if you were to harp on that, they will zone out. They will zone you out because some players are Hall of Famers, some players belong there, and if they don't prepare like professionals, then they don't make it. Then they're out. When you get to college, if you disregard the preparation part of the game, if you disregard teaching them the fundamentals of being a professional, you will fail. They will fail. You set them up for failure, and the players won't ever reach their full potential. And that's the biggest issue. That is the biggest issue. So I just need people to understand what's going on there. It's just frustrating because everybody thinks, oh, Coach Prime got Warren Sapp. Rumor is he's getting Ken Norton Jr. He's getting so-and-so. It's like, yeah, how many times those guys got on the road recruiting? How much tape have they broken down evaluating talented players? Because you have to, one of the greatest things is these coaching staffs do not use 24/7 for their evaluations. They sit down and evaluate the players, and then the websites use the coach's evaluation to determine the rankings of the players. Let me make that very clear. These websites reach out to the coaches and ask how good is this player compared to this player. This is where they get their rankings from. This is where they get their assessments from. It's from the coaching staffs. The coaching staffs themselves have to do this, and certain coaching staffs do it better than others. Certain coaching staffs identify talent better than others. They recruit better than others. And the one thing you want to recruit is a player who's dying to develop himself. Work ethic, right? So it's pretty cool how Alabama finds all the 5 stars that want to develop themselves. They're derived from their own work ethic. It's really cool. If you watch an interview on Justice Haynes right now, this is a young man that just went to Buford for his final year. He was at Blessed Trinity before that. He goes to Alabama. He's a running back. In the spring game, he scores 3 touchdowns. You didn't see him play at all this season. And they asked him, hey, are you jumping in the portal? He was like, I have no desire to jump in the portal. I'm on a winning team and a winning culture, and he's just been working on himself and developing himself. It's really awesome. Really awesome. So shout out to them. I'm sorry. My sound sounds a little distant. I'm sorry. I'm just away from the microphone. Turn your phone up as high as you can. Hang in there. Peace, Rico. Peace, chat. Shout out to you, Sean Ruffner. What are your 24/7 filter settings? Thank you. They're nothing. They're just committed. I'm just looking at committed players. That's the only filter. Double tasking with my Packers against the Vikings and learning ball here. Happy New Year's, Rico. Shout out to Ethan Richards. Stop watching NFL, but more power to you. Derek Feet says, eligibility should matter in the portal. It should matter in the portal. Yeah, if you think so, I think a lot of teams are just finding solutions for this year. They're not, if you get a player and he's got 3 years of eligibility, there's no guarantee that player is going to be with you for the next 3 years. You're signing that player for 1 year. It's a 1-year renewal scholarship, and then they leave. That's how that goes. Ask all these players who repeat transfers. If I was to tell you who repeat transfers are, you would lose your mind. Half the damn list. What in God's name does Ohio State and Florida State do at quarterback? Joe Bartolo, I believe Ohio State's banking on Aaron Nolan coming in and being relevant at quarterback. Florida State's going to get someone. Florida State's going to get someone. This is why Duffy jumped in the portal. This is why Rodemaker jumped in the portal. Florida State is recruiting a 5th and 6th year senior. They're going to get somebody. DJ Ungalele, Cam Ward. It doesn't matter. They're going to get somebody. I hope somebody gets Matthew Sluka. I'll be talking about that later in the show, but that's what they do. FSU is bringing in DJU. There you go. Is Will Howard going to Ohio State? I said that in a couple of videos a while back. I truly believe that. I don't care what these websites say about USC 100%. I think he's a better fit at Ohio State. Dante just went to Oregon because that's where he originally committed to in high school before he flipped to UCLA. Think it's all familiarity for him. Well, if that's true, Andrew, he should have went to Arizona State. Because in high school, when he committed to Oregon initially, it was a different offensive coordinator. Let's make that very clear. Okay? So everybody can say he committed to the coaching staff and he feels comfortable there, but the offensive coordinator you committed to is gone. Just so we're clear. Jediah Walker really going to be an NFL player. Love seeing people who got overlooked make it. Shout out to Jeremy Harrington talking about Jediah Walker. This is a transfer from Grambling Valley. Grambling Valley. What the hell did I say? Grand Valley State? Right? Division 2? Is it Grand Valley State? I might be tripping. Transfer to A&M. Yeah, love the kid. Rico, your sound sounded a little distant. My bad. This was what I needed today. Shout out to you, Analyze and Educate. Gunnar Stockton, I think, turns out to be a guy when it's said and done. Yeah, so if you guys don't know who Gunnar Stockton is, this is a kid in Georgia, played at Rabun County, small school, doesn't matter. Played against Brock Vandergriff in high school. Total stud. Total stud. Was supposed to go to South Carolina, flipped once Mike Bobo left South Carolina and went to Georgia, and he got word, hey, Mike Bobo, he's a family friend with Mike Bobo and them, and Mike Bobo says, hey, man, I'm going to be the offensive coordinator in about another year or two, so come on down. And he committed, and he stuck with it. He's been on the bench at Georgia. Don't get it twisted. Gunnar Stockton is him. Straight baller. Reminds me so much of Tim Tebow. He can run. He's tough. He's everything, man. The guy's great. To be fair, though, Levis was injured his last season of college. Yeah, Colton Flint, Levis was never impressive in college. It doesn't matter if he's injured or not. He's just never been that guy. Is Will Howard going to OSU? I have no idea. I'm not a fortune teller. I look at results. As a Virginia Tech fan, I give my profound thanks to Baylor for not seeing what they had in Kyron Drones. Hope Finn works out for them. Always had a soft spot for Aranda. Yeah, I think Aranda's on the hot seat. I think if they fall apart this year, Aranda's on the hot seat. I know Baylor's trying to sign another running back, even after signing Dominic Richardson from Oklahoma State. The leading rusher from Oklahoma State came in this year, took the job over from Reese. It's a shit show at Baylor right now. I'm letting you know that right now. It's a shit show. And they reached out with one of the graduate assistants to one of the top rushers in the country. He reached out to me and was like, should I go? What do you think I should do? I said, stay away from Baylor. Noah Fafita, Heisman dark horse. Yeah, looks great. Gabriel running that veer and shoot offense is the only reason he's not getting more NFL hype. No, he's also really short. Had an injury, catastrophic injury. And just needs to kind of stick with it. Kyle McCord was way overheated this year. Other than Marvin Harrison, the other options were very underwhelming. Yes, they are. A lot of people try to tell me that wide receiver core is the best in America. It's Marvin Harrison and a bunch of average dudes. Do you think Kentucky will start utilizing their wide receivers with Vandergriff coming in? Yeah, Evan Kramer, I really hope so. That's why they're getting all these receivers in the transfer portal as well. I really hope they figure it out and they start using their wide receivers because they have some really good ones. Not with Poops still influencing the offense, Evan. Yeah, Stoops. I got you. Did you talk about Will Rogers or Will Howard last time? So, let me double check my notes. I know I talked about Will Rogers, and I did not talk about Howard. I only talk about people who are committed, but I talked about Rogers in episode 1, so you can go back and watch that. Yes, he did. Pierce Clarkson is the name you were looking for. Thank you very much, Jonathan Lovey. That is very true. That is exactly what I was looking for. And was the quarterback you were referencing that leaving Caleb Johnson? Just curious. Yes, it was Jonathan Lovey. Caleb Johnson ended up at Butte Community College. And this is a prime example of people wasting their opportunities. A young man like Caleb Johnson, think very highly of him. But when he left and he jumped in the portal, leaving Louisville, this is an Alabama kid, he got a bunch of offers right away. And his offers were Western Kentucky, South Alabama, and those were the big two, okay? And he was debating between the two, and the reality was if he went to either school, he wasn't going to start. He was going to be the backup, and he was just going to sit the bench for a year and then eventually become the starter. So both those programs offered him. And right before he's about to commit to one of them, Ole Miss comes calling. Ole Miss comes calling, and he and his father decide, oh, this is the big move. This is it right here. We're going to go to Ole Miss. And I remember I talked to both of them on the phone, and I said, guys, what are you doing? You're not going to go to Ole Miss. They just got Spencer Sanders. They already have Jackson Dart. They just got Walker Howard. What are you talking about? You're not going to Ole Miss. And he's like, no, yeah, we are. We're going to Ole Miss. So they went to Ole Miss for a visit. They got pictures taken at Ole Miss, all this stuff and all this. And then a couple weeks later, Ole Miss called and said, hey, can you take a preferred walk-on? And it was like, what? And I said, guys, stop what you're doing and go back to Western Kentucky and South Alabama and ask them if the offer's still up. And by that point, both schools said, nope, we don't have any more offers available for you. So this young man chased the dream for 2 weeks, got told you got to take a preferred walk-on. And then the very next week, Ole Miss signs Austin Simmons out of high school. Full ride. Got a scholarship for him, but don't got one for Johnson over here. And they said, well, if one of our quarterbacks jumps in the transfer portal, we'll definitely give you an offer. At that point, they were saying Spencer Sanders is not going to be able to play for various reasons. I already knew this. I made a video on it, and nobody believed me. Said Spencer Sanders will not be the quarterback. He's not winning the competition. It's not even a competition. He'll never play. And once again, he didn't play. I was right. But more importantly, Caleb Johnson, they blew an opportunity to go play at a good school, get a scholarship and all that, and he went JUCO. And now I don't know where he signs. Now I don't know if anybody's interested. And going to the JUCO, you had to compete with like 3 other dudes. One of them was this kid Brown who just transferred from Memphis and Georgia State. And he beat him out, Keelan Brown. He's a state champ back-to-back years. But out of Louisiana, shout out to, where did he go to school? Zachary in Louisiana. But either way, what it comes down to is these young men get offers, and they go and chase the top offer. Guys, you're not going to be the guy. Look at the depth chart. Look at the quarterback's coach. Look at everything. Give me a call. right? Reach out to me on TikTok. I will talk to you about it, and I'll advise you accordingly. And this is what they're doing. These players reach out to me, and people don't think that I talk to players every single day. That's all I do all day. If you don't see me making videos all day, I'm on the phone with players, with their parents. I'm advising players 24/7, and I'm reaching out to coaching staffs for them. And sometimes the coaching staff will be like, "Who the fuck are you?" And I'm like, "Bro, get a grip. Like, I'm telling you the truth. This kid's interested in you. What do you want to do?" And it is what it is. All right. I love what you're doing. I don't think Coach Prime is getting rid of white folks, but he does love his type, a.k.a. Brett Bartolone, who makes pros. So, yeah, Brett Bartolone being a wide receivers coach. If you guys don't know Brett Bartolone's past history, he was the wide receivers coach at Nevada. And Nevada's wide receiver room, Romeo Dobbs, they had about 4 pros in that receiver room back in 2021. Shout out to Nevada, Jay Norvell and the boys. Brett Bartolone, and then eventually goes to Jackson State, becomes the offensive coordinator. But he's not the offensive coordinator today, and they're never thinking about making him one. He's just the receivers coach. That's pretty telling to me. You keep the guy on staff, but he's just your wide receivers coach. You're not going to let him do anything else extra. But shout out to him. Wide receivers coach, nothing to shake your head at. You get paid. What was the betrayal at Chris E? I don't know what's going on there. I agree with your coach's take. Nick Saban was a fringe MAC player, turned out to be the best football coach in the nation. Yeah, there you go. Racist accusations. Didn't Coach Prime have Bart as OC at Jackson State? He is white. You forget that Sean Lewis and OB betrayed Prime. So, Chris, no. This isn't necessarily an accusation. This is an observation. Coach Sean Lewis and OB, Coach O'Boyle, they both came off a recommendation. This is what Coach Prime did. Coach Prime went to Coach Saban and asked, who should I hire? Who's going to help me recruiting? Who's going to help me with the right offense? Who's going to help me succeed? And he got a list of names, and he picked them. That's how that goes. And then after one season, you said, hey, I chose the wrong guys, and I'm out. I don't know what betrayal we're referring to other than the fact that Sean Lewis got an opportunity to be a head coach at San Diego State, and he took it. That's not betrayal. That's an opportunity. You want to take it. It's a pay raise. Go. Nothing wrong with that. Don't get so defensive, Chris E. It comes across like nobody can say anything negative about somebody or make an observation, and then all you guys get defensive, but you're all blind to it. Are you serious? Like, when you hear what's being said verbatim, how do you react to that? I react a certain way to it. I feel some type of way about it. I'm not white. You might look at me and think I'm white. I consider myself, and I know race and ethnicity are two different things, but I grew up around white people. Let me tell you, I'm not white. I don't have white privilege. I grew up around white people. I'm Mexican as a motherfucker. I'm Rico, right? My first name is Rico. My last name is Rico. So when I see people being judged or being discriminated upon because of their skin, it bugs me. And I don't give a shit who's doing it. That's the crazy part. That's the part you guys can't grasp. I don't care who's doing it. I don't like to hear the conversation about from Mendenhall. That didn't move me. That wasn't something I wanted to hear. Rashard Mendenhall going, yeah, I want to see a black ball versus a white ball. No, I read that damn tweet and it said, I don't want to hear these white boys talking about football. Done. I don't give a shit what you got to say now, buddy. You don't even belong in this world. You're racist. Get out my face. Like, real talk. So I'm from a whole different cloth, man. And if you guys ever knew my circle and know who I get down with and the way I move, I think you'd be a little confused because a lot of people think I'm racist and it's actually the opposite, right? So it's ignorance at its finest. Kid Norton is at UCLA. Yes, he is. Sean Lewis made players choose a side. Offensive line were Sean Lewis players, and they chose his side. Sean was also interviewing in the middle of the season, and Coach Prime found out. Hey, you got to find a job. And never forget that, especially if you don't think you have a job and you have job security. Let's make this very clear. If you are one mistake away from losing your job, you don't have a job. Go do what you got to do. There are many people out there looking for a better job. It doesn't mean they're working any less. You can call it betrayal, but if you were at a job right now and you were looking for a pay raise and looking for a different opportunity, are you betraying anyone or are you just looking out for yourself? Are you just trying to better your own life? And you can never fault someone for bettering themselves. Ever. If they're taking care of their family, you can't fault them for that. He didn't get a raise for it. No. Rico, turn on the super chat if you can. I can't, Waddy Way. No super chat authorized until January 28th. I will turn on super chat January 28th. Sorry, man. If you want to support me, become a Patreon, become an MVP. If you've already done that, you go to the Discord server. There is a tip channel on the Discord server. If you're looking at it here, I can show you guys. Discord server, we have this channel here called Tips, and you can tip me there. You can also find the Cash App. You can find the Venmo. It's in the bottom of every single high school film review. Go to TikTok, go to the high school film review videos, and you can do that as well. But I'm not asking for it, but I appreciate you. Figure out a way to tip me, you're good. What fit out of the portal is best fit for Duke? Well, they already got their quarterback. There's no other fit. How do you think DJU fits at FSU? I think he fits like a damn glove, man. I think he's fine. Thoughts on Nate Johnson move to Vanderbilt? I'm going to be talking about him here shortly. He's coming up. He's right there, so I'll get to you. That was an ignorant statement by Mendenhall. Tremendously. Cam Ward is down to Miami or the NFL draft. Yeah, I'm not interested in any hypotheticals. I'm not interested in any rumors. I do not talk about shit like that. I don't care who's down to what. All I care about is when somebody commits. That's why I talk about it after the commitment. So let's get back to talking about the players. Then I'll get back to your guys' questions. Last guy I talked about was going to be Max Brosmer. Max Brosmer leaving, and I'm going to try to check my notes here and see what I had to say. Leaving New Hampshire, though, going to Minnesota, everybody saw that he got an offer from Minnesota the last time I talked about it. He's got 1 year left. Sorry, the missus is walking around distracting me. But this is a kid who led the FCS in passing. So Minnesota's had problems at quarterback, obviously, and they needed to find something. Kaliak Manis, or whatever that guy's name is, Ethan, was not good. I told all Minnesota fans he wasn't going to be good. They attacked me, but I was right. He was terrible. So now you go and get a guy who had 29 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, 3,400 yards. I think he was second in the FCS in touchdowns as well with 29. But he's great, man. He's thrown for 8,700 yards in his career, 70 touchdowns, 25 interceptions. Sounds good to me. I like him. What I'll say is Minnesota kind of has a little thing going here. Their bowl game, Cole Kramer came out and played his ass off. Shout out to Cole Kramer. I don't know if you get rid of Cole Kramer, but they are. So Cole Kramer will probably jump in the portal here in a bit, and then we'll see who's going to be the backup. One thing I'll tell you is Dan Fife, is it Dan? What's his name? Fife from Fresno State. It's Dane, right? Logan Fife. Why am I saying Dan? Logan Fife has committed to Minnesota as well. Logan Fife is the backup quarterback at Fresno State. So you're tired of being the backup quarterback at Fresno State. You transfer to Minnesota. He will not be the starter. He's going to be the backup. I don't know if he thinks this is a terrible transfer. Terrible. You're transferring to Minnesota to go do exactly what you've been doing at Fresno State. Sit in the bench. Because you ain't starting over Max Brosmer. Nope. Congratulations to Minnesota for signing 2 quarterbacks. PJ Fleck, I don't know how you guys convinced both these guys to get there, but one guy's going to start over the rest, and that's Max Brosmer. There's also another freshman, Drake Lindsay, coming in. That's fine. He's going to battle for the backup spot with Logan Fife, but Brosmer's your guy. Grayson McCall, talked about him in the last episode. If I double-check, I think I did, so no need to cover him. Nate Johnson, leaving Utah, going to Vandy. Nate Johnson's not a good quarterback, guys. I know he wants to be a quarterback, but he's not good. He got his chance. He's from Clovis, California. It's Fresno area. Like him. I get it. Runs a 10.5, 600 meters. But I'm going to tell you, he doesn't look that fast on the field. He doesn't. There's track speed and there's football speed. His speed is so straight line that he's not very elusive. He doesn't make people miss. He's missing the agility part of it. Like Matthew Sluka, the Holy Cross quarterback, has rushed for 1,200 yards in back-to-back seasons. Matthew Sluka does not have 10.5 speed, but he's way more effective as a runner than Nate Johnson. Nate Johnson is straight line speed, can't make anybody miss. And it's so much so that Utah said, you know what, we're going to let this guy. So he started as the backup. Then he earned his spot. Bryson Barnes played so bad, they said, let's put Nate Johnson in. He was even worse. So they brought Bryson Barnes back in, and then they told Nate Johnson, just sit down. We're done. And yes, Utah quarterback play was horrible this year. I don't see this as a good transfer. Let me make this clear. If you can't play at a Power 5 school, when you go and transfer to another one, you're just wasting years of eligibility. You need to go down in competition, and that's the reality. Like, that's it. That's it. There are very few success stories where I saw a guy on the bench. Look, Brock Vandergrift's going to do it. But he's going from Georgia to Kentucky. Utah to Vandy, I think it's a lateral move. I think it's a lateral move, and I don't think it's a good one. I'm letting you know now. Even if he does eventually start, he'll be terrible. I think he should have went to San Diego State, Fresno State, San Jose State. I think he's that caliber of quarterback. I think he should have went to New Mexico State, Utah State. But the fact that these young men think you need to go to a Power 5 school and only a Power 5 school, and they think they're that caliber of player, and they're not. Not from what I've seen on the field. No way. If you couldn't win that job outright and play well against those defenses, you're not going to be able to play at Vandy. I don't buy it. I think it's a bad move by Nate Johnson. I just don't think he's a good quarterback. Curtis Rourke from Ohio to Indiana. I did not talk about him in the last episode. He has 1 year left. This is a Canada kid, 6'5", 230. I'll say this. I wasn't impressed with Curtis Rourke this year. I put him in my top 10 in group of 5 quarterbacks. I love Curtis Rourke. But for Curt Cignetti, the former JMU head coach, just moved over to Indiana. For Curt Cignetti to get to Indiana and say, we're going to go with Curtis Rourke as our starter, I hope he does miracles with them. I hope he does well. But I'm really surprised he didn't bring McLeod along with him. You just had a guy in Jordan McLeod play great for you this year, throw for 3,400 yards. I watched Curtis Rourke struggle all season long at Ohio. And he had a guy, Sam Wiggles, former Ohio State walk-on, but Sam Wiggles was open everywhere. Rourke was hitting nothing. He couldn't hit the broad side of a barn. Second team, All-MAC, I get it. 307 attempts, 63% completion percentage. I get it. Not impressed with it. I just thought he played bad. I really did. And what's crazy is he was the MAC Offensive Player of the Year a couple years ago. He was really good. He wasn't this year. So I hope he's improved. I hope he plays better. There isn't a lot of competition at Indiana. Taven Jackson's there. Taven Jackson won some state titles in high school. Went to Tennessee for a year. Thought he could play at Tennessee. Found out he couldn't. Comes home to Indiana. Couldn't play at Indiana. Sat the bench. Sorsby won the job. Eventually became the alpha male in that room. And Sorsby hit the portal. And he's gone. Going to Cincinnati. Go play for Satterfield. But for me, I talked about him in episode 1, by the way. But for me, Curtis Rourke is not him. Now, maybe he has a good year, I hope, but he's just not him. I'm not sold on this at all. Bad transfer, and this one just feels like, why isn't coach after Jordan McLeod? That's my question. Why didn't Indiana offer their 3,400-yard passer? That's weird. To me, it's weird. Cignetti should have offered him, personally. Sorsby, I already talked about him in the previous episode, so if you want to know about him, go back and watch episode 1. Sam Levitt. Sam Levitt leaving Michigan State. You'll see there are 3 quarterbacks on this list leaving Michigan State. Sam Levitt, Kim, and who's the other one? I'm drawing a blank. Sam Levitt, Kim, one more. I don't remember. One of the kids. One of the guys who was playing this year. But what I'll tell you, he's going to come up at some point. What I'll tell you is Sam Levitt's a dual threat guy, and nobody knows about it. He's actually really athletic. But he has 4 years of eligibility left. This is the kid I told you got his feelings hurt. In episode 1, I talked about him potentially going to, and I named Utah State, BYU, that area. Utah State and BYU. Look where he ended up, Arizona State. Just had a feeling, guys. I do this. Now, I got it wrong, but I knew he wasn't going to go to Oregon or Oregon State. I knew that he was upset. This is the former Gatorade Player of the Year out of Oregon, but his parents have ties to the Utah teams, so I thought that's maybe where he's going to go. But with this move, this tells me that Jaden Rashada will not be at Arizona State for his entire career. That's what it tells me. It tells me when they talk to this young man, they let him know, hey, we got a guy here, but he's probably not going to be here his whole career. He might hit the portal and leave. This was a young man originally committed to Washington State coming out of high school, and then he flipped to Michigan State. So, more proud to him. Glad he found a scholarship opportunity and he found a home. Chandler Rogers. I don't get this move, y'all. I don't get this move. Shout out to Chandler Rogers. Let me just say that right now. Shout out to Chandler Rogers. Obviously, I loved everything he did at North Texas. If you watched and you were an MVP this year, you know how I feel about North Texas. I think very highly of North Texas. Eric Morris, the offensive coordinator. I really felt like Chandler Rogers took advantage of a great system. Okay, so let me make this clear. Eric Morris, phenomenal offensive coordinator. I talk about this every single time. Former head coach at UIW, Incarnate Word, goes up to Washington State with his quarterback, Cam Ward. They both go up there, and they dominate the Pac-12 in his first year. They win 7 games. Cam Ward plays out of his mind, and he's the offensive coordinator for Washington State. Then Eric Morris gets hired this year by North Texas to be the head coach. He comes back to Texas. He's a Texas guy. Comes back to Texas, and he finds a Texas quarterback, and that's Chandler Rogers. Chandler Rogers played his high school ball at Lake Ridge, Mansfield, Texas, right? Lake Ridge High School. Chandler Rogers was at ULM 2 years ago. He was the starting quarterback at ULM. He jumps in the portal, and they're like, yo, come out. So he was FCS out of high school, then went to ULM, then went to North Texas. Or he was getting FCS offers out of high school. But because he played so well in high school, Eric Morris knew who he was. And Eric Morris said, show up. Get over here. You're going to win the job. And now Stone Earl was the quarterback to start the season. He played terrible. He's going to Abilene Christian. By the way, Stone Earl transferred from Abilene Christian to North Texas, lost the job to Chandler Rogers, and Stone Earl just jumped in the portal and went back to Abilene Christian. He's going back to his FCS school. He said, I'm out of here. This FBS shit is for the birds. More power to him. But here's the thing. Going to Cal blew my mind. I didn't see this coming. Now, Cal saw Chandler Rogers up front. If you don't remember, Cal played North Texas early in the season. Cal won the game. The score was crazy. It was like 57-35 or something. But Cal saw. And a lot of these transfers are going to schools that they played against. It's pretty cool. But Chandler Rogers, I personally don't think he's much of an upgrade. I don't think he's that much better than Fernando Mendoza, who actually won the job at Cal. If you guys don't remember, Cal's quarterback situation was crazy this year. It was supposed to be Sam Jackson the fifth. It was supposed to be Ryan Finley. Is it Ryan Finley, the transfer from NC State? The two of them were battling. Neither one of them won the job. Fernando Mendoza won the job. And now Cal goes out and says, oh, well, great job winning the job there, Fernando, but we're going to bring in Chandler Rogers. Now, I love Rogers, but I think he benefited from having 2 amazing running backs. Go look at their numbers. Their running backs were insane. 7 yards a carry for 1,000 yards. Insane. North Texas offensive scheme was out of this world. He had Jamari Macklin at wide receiver. Complete stud. Just transferred back into the SEC. I don't understand that. He just transferred to Kentucky. I think it's a terrible transfer because he couldn't play at Missouri. Goes down to North Texas, has an amazing year, and then he leaves to go to Kentucky. It doesn't make any sense to me. But Rogers put up some pretty damn good numbers. He threw for 3,300 yards. He 29 touchdowns. I think he had great numbers. I remember a game against Tulane. Tulane has really good secondary players when they're not injured. Tulane has a good defense. Chandler Rogers, they lost the game, but Chandler Rogers went 35 for 51. It's a pretty solid completion percentage. 343 yards and 2 touchdowns. He played great. And then that last game at North Texas, who was it against? It doesn't matter. He threw for over 400 yards. So, and 3 touchdowns. I think Chandler Rogers is great. I don't know if he's much of an upgrade for Cal. I don't. I hope he plays well, but it just doesn't. I thought he was dominating at North Texas and should have stayed there with Eric Morris. That's what I think, personally. A.J. Swan, one of the dumbest transfers I've ever seen in my life. A.J. Swan is a 4-star kid coming out of high school, goes to Vandy, has played like absolute garbage, 6'3", 228. I don't understand what he's doing. I don't get it. One of the worst transfers of my life. Going to LSU. Whatever, bro. Whatever. That's a kid, I'm going to stay in the SEC. I could play in the SEC. All right. Sneaky athletic. I don't think he's LSU caliber at all. This is a 1,400-yard passer at Vandy. 55% completion percentage on his passes. 12 touchdowns. Like, it's nothing remarkable. And the thing about it is, you go to LSU, Garrett Nussmeier is supposed to be their starter. Maybe Garrett Nussmeier is not him. They got Colin Hurley, but I'm going to tell you guys a name I think that they should be interested in. And I'm calling my shot now. Eli Holstein. Eli Holstein, coming out of high school, one of the top quarterbacks in Louisiana, but he didn't go to LSU. He went to Alabama. But Eli Holstein wanted to go to LSU, but he couldn't beat out Walker Howard. Walker Howard is actually better than him in high school. They went to the same high school. Walker Howard won the job in high school, and Eli Holstein had to transfer to, I think, Zachary. And so Eli Holstein's playing at a different high school. He got beat out in high school. So Eli's over here. Walker Howard's over here. Now it's time to go to college. Walker Howard goes to LSU. He since then jumped in the portal and went to Ole Miss and left LSU high and dry. LSU's missing transfers. LSU's missing quarterbacks now because Walker Howard left him high and dry. So now this Eli Holstein kid goes to Alabama, and then Alabama goes and signs Dylan Lonergan, who's from Georgia, Brookwood. He's boring as fuck. Like, I can't stand Dylan Lonergan. I think he's terrible. But they say he's playing better than Eli Holstein at practice. I think Eli Holstein needs to hit the transfer portal. This is a fifth-string quarterback at Alabama right now, and I think LSU would give him an offer. And this is one of those lateral transfers, but I think it's important because he's better than A.J. Swan. He's better than A.J. Swan. That much I do know. I'm pretty sure of it. So I would like to see Eli Holstein in the transfer portal, and he either needs to go to South Alabama or LSU. And I say South Alabama because they need a new starter instead of Carter Bradley, but I think South Alabama needs to hit the portal and find a really good quarterback. Eli Holstein, man, I'm excited for that prospect. The reason I keep mentioning him, his tape is off the charts. I don't give a shit what they're saying. I don't care what anybody says. I watched his tape, and it's one of the best high school quarterback tapes I've seen, and I'm convinced he is going to be a starting quarterback. We just got to get him that opportunity. This kid, A.J. Swan, fucking, if he's starting for LSU, they're losing games. He's trash. All right. Cam Fancher leaving Marshall, one of the more surprising transfers I've ever seen. So when I saw him get in the portal, first thing I said was, why? You were playing so good at Marshall. You have a good coach. They believe in you. What are you doing? Why are you going? Is this just musical chairs? And sure enough, it's nonsense. LSU was interested in him, and NC State was interested in him. And instead, he goes to FAU. There's no reason for this. It's just you're restless. You just want to get in the portal just to get in the portal. Makes no sense. So this is an Ohio kid, right? Dayton, Ohio kid. I thought he played well, but you're going to go play at FAU for Tom Herman, former Texas head coach and Houston head coach. Tom Herman has a good track record with developing quarterbacks. So when you start seeing FAU, they threw the ball over 100 times this year to LeJontay Wester, right? But FAU had quarterback issues. Casey Thompson got hurt. Daniel Richardson was the starting quarterback. And Daniel's 5'11", 210, and he looks fatter than that, man. He looks out of shape on tape. You'd think he'd be a dual threat guy. He's not. And Daniel actually jumped in the transfer portal and left at FAMU. He probably belonged at FAMU instead of these group of five schools. But Cam is a pretty good player. I think he's a decent player. So more power to him. Going to FAU, I hope it's a dynamite selection. Now, they lost LeJontay Wester. He jumped in the portal as well. But it's just pretty cool. Pretty cool. I think he can beat out the other quarterbacks at FAU. If you don't know the quarterbacks at FAU, they do have Michael Johnson Jr. He's a dual threat guy. He was their Wildcat quarterback this year. He's pretty interesting. I like him as a prospect. And then they also had Tariq Sparks. He's a JUCO kid. Looks good on tape. Luke Rucker, Ben Ballard, and Carson Kruger are all really decent quarterbacks on that roster. So, I don't know, man. More power to him. I'm glad he found an opportunity and he went to FAU. But it felt like a lateral move. It felt like another move. Like, how's that an upgrade? It's not. And he was starting at Marshall. Nobody was pressing him for time or nothing. He wasn't going to lose his job. Nothing. He just upped and bounced. Walter Taylor going from Vandy to Colorado. Now, Vandy lost three quarterbacks. Vandy lost three quarterbacks in the portal. Walter Taylor is the kid who can't play quarterback. I don't know what he's going to do. He's going to Colorado to be the quarterback. He's grown 2 inches since high school. He's 6'7" now. So he's 6'7", 235 pounds. Coming out of Jackson, Alabama, coming out of high school, only FCS offers. But this is a kid. Oh, no, this isn't the one. This isn't the one I'm thinking of. I'm thinking of Wade. I'm thinking of the twin. Never mind. Walter Taylor's straight. I think Walter Taylor's got a shot. I apologize right now. I think Walter Taylor's got a shot. Coming out of high school, FCS only offers. A late offer from Vandy. He took it. Probably shouldn't have. 4-star player coming out of high school. Pro-style quarterback. Threw for over 4,000 yards. 51 touchdowns his senior year. Just out there throwing it. What's cool about Colorado, when they go out and sign these players, they have, and this was all last year as well, they recruit players in pairs. They sign 2 players from every school. I don't care if it's ODU, Maine, FSU, Kentucky, now Vandy. So they got Will Shepard and they're getting Walter Taylor. They're just getting 2 players. That's like they can all be roommates. They're getting 2 players from every school. It helps them get acclimated. You know somebody on the team now. And this is a guy that can be a backup quarterback. I think he's got a pro-style arm. I think he's solid. I'm excited for him. I'm not excited for the Wade kid whenever he comes up. But, yeah, Walter Taylor, I think he's got a shot. It's a hidden gem. Good, more power to him. Tyler Shuck, I talked about him on the previous episode, so if you want to learn about him, go for it. Max Johnson, previous episode, go find episode 1 for the quarterbacks on my live list. If you didn't know, you go to YouTube, click on the live tab, you will find all the videos, and there they are. And I talked about these players already. Caden Hauser, that's the other kid I couldn't remember, from Michigan State, going to ECU. You need to find somebody from ECU. I talked about him in episode 1, but all I said was this is a kid that might go back to the West Coast. Didn't happen. He's from St. John Bosco. All the quarterbacks from St. John Bosco are flopping out of their minds. That includes Caden Hauser. That includes DJ Ungalele, right? That includes just a ton of players. That's how I feel about them. They're just not getting it done. So, Caden Hauser going to ECU. ECU had bad quarterback play. You think Hauser played bad? ECU has some of the worst quarterback play out there. You'd be hard-pressed to find a worse Power 5 quarterback room in America than ECU. So he's got a shot. 3 years of eligibility left. He is 6'3", 215. Congratulations. He started 7 games this year. Threw for 1,100 yards. What's the matter, sweetie? I'm sorry, my dog's looking around. And 59% completion percentage, yes. Threw 6 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, but Caden Hauser's going to probably get a chance to start at ECU. Probably. There's some really bad quarterbacks over there. And Garcia jumped in the portal. We'll talk about it, but there you go. MJ Morris leaving NC State, going to Maryland. I was a big advocate for MJ Morris last offseason. I kind of told everybody, hey, I think this kid should be starting over Armstrong, and I really like his game. But I didn't see anything from MJ Morris this year that warranted this move to another Power 5 program. I actually thought he was going down in competition. I thought he was going to South Alabama. I thought he was going, when I talked about him last, I said I know he's a Carrollton High School kid from Georgia, but I said I didn't see anything from him that warrants a Power 5 offer. And yet, he's going to Maryland. We just saw a kid at Maryland in the bowl game played pretty damn good. I don't know if MJ Morris is that much better than what Maryland has on their roster right now. I did not see him play well this year for NC State. I saw NC State winning games with MJ Morris because their defense was so amazing. Peyton Wilson, right? But not MJ Morris. No. I hope he plays well wherever he goes. I like the kid. I like his game. I'm always pulling for him. But I just don't think he's an upgrade. I don't. I think Maryland's going to be disappointed, personally. And they got a tough schedule. So, Taylor Green, leaving Boise, going to Arkansas. I guess this is Arkansas's way of, solving the problem. You're losing KJ Jefferson. You can't replace KJ Jefferson. That guy's a stud. An amazing dual-threat quarterback. And I know they didn't play well this year, but KJ Jefferson's a good quarterback. And there's not people better than him on other people's bench, right? You're not going to find somebody from a bench and go yeah, you're better than my starter. You're better than KJ Jefferson. Not happening. So when Jefferson jumps in the portal, you got to find some semblance of a quarterback. The thing that confuses me is I didn't think that Taylor Green was that good of a quarterback at Boise. He was starting to have to split time because he couldn't throw right. I think he benefited from a stacked box trying to stop Genty and Holani. I think he had an amazing wide receiver in McAllister on the outside. It's just a lot of things lined up perfectly. Now, Taylor can run his ass off.
Taylor's an amazing runner. He's huge. 6'6", 221, and can just go. He's a KJ Jefferson clone. But they already have Jacoby Criswell. If you guys don't know, Jacoby Criswell is an Arkansas high school state champ. Went to North Carolina. Couldn't start at North Carolina. Who can? Couldn't start over Drake May. Couldn't start over Sam Howell. We get it. So he was on the bench for a couple years. Then he came back to Arkansas. And I think he came back to Arkansas with the intent of starting after Jefferson left. So now you got Jacoby Criswell. Is he not better than Taylor Green?
I don't know.
I personally don't know.
But I hope one of them does well. That's what I'll say. I hope one of them does well. Blake Shapen leaving Baylor, going to Mississippi State. I don't get it, man. Like, Blake Shapen's got 1 year left. I don't get the infatuation with Blake Shapen. Everything I've seen at Baylor kind of left me underwhelmed. I know this is a Louisiana kid. He played high school at Evangel Christian. If you guys don't know, Evangel Christian Academy, home of Brock Berlin, Jacob Hester, Richard Smith, Jonathan Wade, Keonta Dawson. Like, I know the teams. I know how great that high school is. Oh, by the way, what's his name? Joe McKnight played there before he left to where'd he go? Forgot where he went. John Curtis was his last couple years. But either way, like, it's a great high school product. I get it. But what I saw from Sawyer Robertson left Mississippi State and went to Baylor. So this is like a swap 2 years later. But in 23 games at Baylor, 5,500 yards passing, I've never really been impressed with Blake Shapen. Now, to his credit, he's going to go play for Jeff Libby. And Jeff Libby has been doing great things, offensive coordinator at Oklahoma, now the head coach at Mississippi State. I'm sure he's going to do something to get it going. What I thought was interesting is Blake Shapen committed to Mississippi State before going on a visit. He committed before he went on a visit because he already had visited the school when he was coming out of high school. He took a visit to Mississippi State, so he already knew what the school looked like. So that was pretty cool, but more power to him. Max Brown leaving Florida, going to Charlotte. Yeah, congratulations to Charlotte. They got to bring in a bunch of random dudes. Max Brown's a baseball player, guys. He's got 3 years of eligibility left, but he played baseball at Florida. I think he'll probably play at Charlotte as well. Max Brown coming out of high school, Tulsa, Oklahoma, Lincoln Christian School, did not belong at the Power 5 level. He was committed to Central Michigan. And then late in the recruiting process, for whatever reason, Washington offered him. Out of nowhere, Washington just offered him. He's committed to Central Michigan, mind you. And when Washington offered him, Florida decided, we're going to offer that kid too. He's got to be good. This school offered him, we might as well offer him. Everybody, hey, we're going to miss on this kid. It's the damn most ridiculous thing you've ever seen. So Florida offers him, and he goes to Florida. He didn't belong at Florida. He belonged at CMU. So going to Charlotte seems like a good fit for him. It's probably the caliber of team he should be on. First player from Florida, when they jumped in the portal, he's the first one to find a new school, which is pretty impressive because they had like 15 kids jump in the portal. Didn't play well this year. I think he threw 1 interception and 192 yards on 28 attempts, which is a really bad yards per attempt average. Didn't really move me. A.J. Duffy, congratulations, A.J. Duffy, leaving Florida State, going to San Diego State. A.J. Duffy will probably compete for the quarterback job at San Diego State and might win it. You never know. 6'2", 217. If you guys don't know this, A.J. Duffy in high school played in the Inland Empire, played at Rancho Verde. That's where his dad coached. He was at Rancho Verde, and he did well. He played well, and he did some amazing things. But the problem is when COVID hit his junior year, he missed his junior year. He didn't want to miss his senior year. California didn't play football during COVID. So he transferred and went to IMG. And then you go to IMG, and then you're at IMG, and you start thinking, oh, man, I'm the IMG quarterback. I could play at Florida State. No, you can't. No, you can't. He got 0 reps in practice, 0 reps anywhere. You've seen the Florida State quarterbacks. You've seen how bad they are, the backups. And A.J. Duffy was their backup. Okay, he was worse than them. So I don't necessarily know where he's going from here, but he finally saw the writing on the wall and said, I can't play football. And this is where I'm getting at. You see these players like A.J. Duffy, Max Brown, they have 0 business being ranked ahead of the next 5 guys. 0.
Because here's Giovanni McCoy. Giovanni McCoy's a stud. Giovanni McCoy is a beast of a player. Shout out to Oregon State for getting Giovanni McCoy. He's been dominating at Idaho for the last few years. If you didn't know, Idaho moved back to FCS a while ago. So he's been at the FCS level. 2,900 yards this year. And he did better last year. Touchdown to interception ratio was off the charts last year. It's a California kid. Giovanni McCoy is a great quarterback. He will be the starting quarterback at Oregon State next year. And I'll never understand how he signs with Oregon State and Jabari Johnson signs with Oregon State as well. That's just the dumbest thing I've seen. And I'm skipping Blaze because I'm going to go down to Jabari Johnson real quick. Jabari Johnson leaving Missouri, going to Oregon State. Now, Jabari Johnson's a kid from Washington. He's from the state of Washington. And he wanted to get back home and get back over here. So he did 1 year at Missouri. And what he found out when he got to Missouri is, holy shit, they don't like me. Missouri does not care about you. Missouri got that kid out of high school and said, congrats. Now that you're here, you're an athlete. You're 5'10", 193. They want to make this kid a corner, bro. They want to make this kid a defensive back. He was not respected as a quarterback. And Missouri went out and signed Jake Garcia in the transfer portal. They had Sam Horn. They have, obviously, Brady, or great, what's his name? Brady? It's like they have the most amazing quarterback room. You're not getting a chance to see the field, get any reps. He said, I'm going to Oregon State because I think they'll take me more seriously as a quarterback. Bruh, you signed with them 2 weeks or a week later after they signed Giovanni McCoy. Do you know how good Giovanni McCoy is? You're not beating out Giovanni McCoy. It's just dumb. It's dumb. I don't get that move. Shout out to Blaze Berowitz leaving New Mexico State. He was there for 1 year. This kid is 6'3", 200 pounds. From Cushing, Oklahoma. Redshirted this year. No shame in redshirting. You're sitting behind Diego Pavia. Diego is a beast. He's in the portal right now. I'm not talking about Diego because he hasn't committed anywhere yet. But Diego's got offers from Washington State, Western Kentucky. Diego's got offers from everybody, bro. Diego's real. Nevada. I know he's got one more. I know he's got 5 more offers. The point is Blaze wasn't going to beat him out. But what's crazy is Blaze played in the blowout loss against Liberty, and I thought he played okay. I went back and watched it. He threw 1 touchdown, 1 interception, 100-something yards. I went back and watched it. I was like, okay, Blaze looked fine. But this move is all about following your coach. Shout out to Tim Beck. Tim Beck, offensive coordinator for New Mexico State, just got hired at Vanderbilt. So he's going to be at Vanderbilt. Now, you guys know, you got Blaze here, and you got Nate Johnson up here. So 2 kids have committed to Vanderbilt. They just lost 3 quarterbacks in the transfer portal. They got 2. But Blaze is going with his offensive coordinator. So does he have the inside track? Your offensive coordinator is going to implement an offense you already know. Does Blaze have the inside track to start? Shout out to Tim Beck, former Pittsburgh State head coach, Division II powerhouse. Back in 2011, they won the national title. Tim Beck was the head coach. Now he's working his way up the ranks. He's now the offensive coordinator at Vandy. I think one day he should be a head coach at a Power 5 school. Tim Beck. We're going to find this recording. We're going to be like RicoKnows, and your friends don't know, but I do. But shout out to Blaze, man. As soon as he hit the portal and he committed to Vandy, somebody reached out to me on my DMs, said, hey, Rico, you really need to look into this kid, Blaze Berowitz. And I said, I know his name. I mean, I watched him play this year. And they said, no, Rico, I think he's good. I think he's the goods. I think he's good. The future. I said, okay. Went back, watched it. I don't know what they're talking about. The future of what? Might be the starter for Vandy for 3 years. We'll see. But that's a kid that I believe in. I think he made the right choice. Go follow your coach. If a coach wants you to go with him, go with him. There's coaches out there that aren't bringing their players with them. It's weird. Hank Bachmeier, I think I talked about him in the previous episode. I did, so go back to episode 1. I already talked about him. Mitch Griffiths, already talked about him in episode 1. Destin Wade leaving Kentucky, going to Colorado. He's got 3 years of eligibility left. Do you guys remember the game where, what's his name? Will Levis sits out the bowl game against Iowa. This was last year. Not this year, but last season. Bowl game. Will Levis sat out the bowl game against Iowa, and Iowa won the game 21-0. Nobody wants to talk about the SEC losing a bowl game, but they lost the bowl game Their starting quarterback sat out. Go figure. They couldn't score. Sound familiar? So their starting quarterback sits out. Will Levis sits out, and they bring in this kid, Wade. And they say, Wade, you're going to start. Destin Wade. And Destin Wade, that's the only time I remember seeing him on the field. He was terrible. This is Mr. Tennessee in football. This is a kid who went 16 for 30 and 98 yards. Do that again. 30 attempts, 98 yards. Guys, 3 yards an attempt is not supposed to happen in passing. Nope. You're supposed to be somewhere around 7 or 8. He's at 3. Started that game. They played terrible. Former 4-star kid, Mr. Football, coming out of Tennessee. I remember in Tennessee, his win-loss record was 40-5. Everybody was like, yeah, 40-5. Nah. The team was good. You play with your brother. I get it. This is a dual-threat kid. Rushed for over 2,000 yards in high school his senior year and threw for 1,400. He's got it a little backwards. I think he's a hell of an athlete, not a hell of a quarterback. So you're going to Colorado. A bunch of dudes are backing up. Shedeur Sanders. I don't think there's much future for Destin Wade as a quarterback. I've watched him play. He can't throw. He's not a real quarter. He's not a college quarterback. If anything, Colorado will find a different transfer to start. It will not be him. And the other kid they have, the 6'7" kid that I just talked about, I think that's a more realistic option. Walter Taylor. Just more traditional. Just a little better. I don't think that this man can complete a single pass. I believe they were a package deal, but his brother brings a lot more value on the defensive line for Coach Prime and Colorado before Destin Wade does. I don't think he'll ever be in the rotation. Never. He's not that guy. And he obviously doesn't belong ranked ahead of some of these other players who've actually played really good football. Let me make that very clear. Braylon Braxton. Braylon Braxton last year jumped in the transfer portal, and for whatever reason he left it and went back to school. They talked him to go back into Tulsa. I spent all last offseason telling people I thought Braylon Braxton is him. I think he's going to be great. He's a dual-threat quarterback. I love what I saw on tape from Braylon Braxton. And then he made me look like a fool. He played like absolute shit this year. He was terrible. Not even bad. He was terrible. And this is a guy who was splitting time with Davis Brin. By the way, Davis Brin just led the country in interceptions this year, being the starting quarterback at Georgia Southern, because they just throw the ball all day. But this man was terrible this year. So bad, guys. One game, he just threw an interception the first play, threw an interception the second play, threw an interception the third play. When they lost to SMU, I think it was 59-0. He was, oh my God, bad. But I swear, underneath all that, there's a good quarterback. I don't know what's going on. I don't get it. And then obviously the nail in the coffin was Kirk Francis comes off the bench, true freshman, Texas kid, and wins the job. And every single Tulsa quarterback from that day forward just dead. Carnell Williams coming. He used to come off the bench and play well. Done. Not even in the rotation anymore. Braylon Braxton, so done. And then you see him jump in the portal, and I'm like, where's he going to go? Where the hell is he going to go, bro? I don't know. He's from Frisco, Texas, so I'm like, maybe he's going to go down to Texas and play for an FCS program. Nope. He's going to replace Cam Franchard. So he's going to Marshall. And you saw Cam left Marshall, and I talked about it. I don't know if he's an upgrade. I hope he plays better. I know that. I hope he plays better at Marshall, because he didn't do the damn thing like I envisioned. No, not even a little bit. Noah Kim going to Coastal Carolina. Talked about it in episode 1. Nothing to talk about there. Bo Allen, didn't talk about it in episode 1. I'll make this clear. Bo Allen played his ball in Kentucky. And he's a Kentucky kid coming out of high school, recruited by Western Kentucky and Kentucky, decides, I'm going to go to Kentucky, because that's what all kids do in Kentucky, right? I'm going to go play for Kentucky. Well, he didn't play. He didn't beat out Will Levis. So you don't beat out Will Levis. You can't start at Kentucky. You leave. And he hits the transfer portal. He goes down to Tarleton State. Goes to Tarleton State and plays great. Plays great down in Texas, Tarleton State, FCS. Does the damn thing. Jumps in the portal, ill-advised move, jumps in the portal, goes to Georgia Southern. Going to compete with Davis Brin to be the starter. No, buddy. It's your second transfer. You're an undergraduate transfer. The NCAA deems you ineligible. Never got to play this year. Then he graduates, jumps in the portal again. Don't give a fuck, man. I want to start my coaching career. So he's going to Kentucky, not to compete, not to be the starter, never going to play, just getting ready to be a graduate assistant, wants to be closer to home, get a degree from Kentucky. Congratulations. You're going back. But that's it. It's not a football move at all. It's a coaching move. This is a whatever move. He's done. Logan Fife, transferring to Minnesota to be the backup. There's no way he starts. I don't get it. Remember, he beat out Jalen Henderson, who was starting at Texas A&M for the bowl game until he got hurt on the first play. But Logan Fife is not a good quarterback. Very underwhelming on film. Going to Minnesota, dumb transfer. Going to be the backup. More power to you. Spencer Petras, I'm checking my notes here. I talked about him in the last episode. Drew is a statue leaving Minnesota. Another bad quarterback leaving Minnesota. Going to Eastern Michigan. It's closer to home. That's where he's going. He's going closer to home. More power to him. He should have went to Eastern Michigan out of high school. He was committed to them, and then he flipped to Minnesota at the last second. He's a MAC-level quarterback. So go back home. He's from Walled Lake, Michigan, Walled Lake Western. Go back home, get out of here. Mason Garcia. This is one of those bad ECU quarterbacks. He's from Myrtle Beach. He's going to Austin Peay. If you don't know where Austin Peay is, it's in Tennessee. It's near Fort Campbell, Kentucky, Clarksville. So more power to him. Gonna go over there to Austin Peay. Austin Peay just lost their head coach, so they need something. They just lost their backup quarterback. He just transferred to UTEP. It's lower on the list, I'm sure. But more power to Mason Garcia leaving. Congratulations, Tevin Carter. This is a Memphis kid going to Tennessee State. If you don't know where Tennessee State's located, it's in Nashville. So he's got to move a little bit. But this, out of high school, he had offers. Memphis, Tennessee State. And he chose Memphis because, it's the bigger school. That's what you're thinking. I'm going to go to Memphis. But he probably, and he had an offer from Georgia Tech, but he probably belongs at Tennessee State. So I'm glad he's going there, getting his opportunity to see the field again. Dexter Williams, leaving Indiana, going to Georgia Southern. This is a kid at Indiana. He didn't get to play this year. He was injured. But of all the quarterbacks, it's just nice to see him getting to Georgia Southern. Get a chance, man. That's all I'm saying. I talked about him. He's from Georgia, from Macon, Georgia. So I talked about him on the last episode, and something I said here, I'm going to read my notes. It said, I thought he should go to Campbell, the Fighting Camels. I didn't think that he belonged up here. Dual threat. I wrote that he has significant structural damage and didn't play. Got 3 years of eligibility left. Let's see what he can do at Georgia Southern. I don't think he's the caliber of Georgia Southern. I think he'll be on the bench. Dexter Williams. People are hoping he plays great. I think he'll be on the bench. There are players that go to Georgia Southern and Georgia State and don't measure up. They probably belong at an HBCU or an FCS school. Well, that's the same, but you get what I'm saying. Jake Rubley talked about him in the last episode. Fomby, not even an FBS transfer. Not sure why he's on here. Evan Simon, good player, man. I mean, he's fine. Here's what I'll say. If you can't start at Rutgers and you're not better than Gavin Wimsatt, you shouldn't be at Temple. You're not good enough to be on the field. If you're not better than Gavin Wimsatt, you can't be on the field. Gavin Wimsatt's a terrible quarterback at Rutgers, and Evan Simon's probably worse. So I'm not getting down with it. Chase Harrison, leaving Marshall. You're on the bench at Marshall. He's going back to Ball State. He's a MAC kid. He was offered by MAC schools coming out of high school, so it is what it is at this point. Avion Smith, we watched him play. Became the starting quarterback at Middle of Ohio after the injury to Gabbert. Became the starter. Bad quarterback. Couldn't run. Can't throw to save his life. Can't throw for a lick, bro. He's from South Carolina. This is a bad quarterback. Going to Alabama A&U or Alabama A&M, congratulations. They probably found themselves a stud quarterback for their offense. Not happening, bro. Jace Bauer, leaving Central Michigan. He was the starting quarterback there. I think he can start at Sam Houston. He's a stud, man. 6'3", tough kid. His dad played at Iowa State. His dad's an NFL scout, an XFL scout. Jace Bauer is the truth. Like, I watched him play. He's like a poor man's Johnny Manziel. Just tough around the red zone. Whenever we watch Central Michigan, Jace Bauer was a threat to get an anytime touchdown. He might tuck it and go. I think he's tough. Sam Houston needs something. Excuse me, if you will. Brady Shannon, I'll never understand what the hell Brady Shannon did. He's from Youngstown, Ohio. He had offers from Ohio. Like, I don't get it. He could have just stayed home. He's from there. He had an offer from the MAC, from UMass, and Youngstown State. And then at the last minute, UCF offered him, and he jumps in the portal and goes to UCF. Why? You've been at UCF and wasting your eligibility. Wasting your eligibility. It's bullshit. E.J. Warner, Kurt Warner's son, congratulations. I think I talked about him in the last episode. Yeah, I told you guys I thought he might go to Arizona, return back home. I think he could start at Arizona State. I don't know. He's a damn gunslinger. He can throw the rock everywhere. Going to Rice, not bad. Rice had a good year this year, a decent year. Shout out to JT Daniels. Made it to a bowl game again. E.J. Warner's a good quarterback, guys. He just slings it. Just slings it. Like everything about him. Shout out to Pops. Way different from Kurt Warner, but EJ he's a high-volume thrower. Daniel Richardson, talked about him a little earlier. Former CMU starting quarterback, transferred down to FAU. He wanted to be closer to home. He's from Hollywood, Florida. Excuse me. Goodness. Sorry, guys. Give me a second. Sucks to be me. I know it's unprofessional. I'm a little under the weather. Okay. Daniel Richardson on tape. He looks overweight. He's like a little fat dude. He can play football. I think he's solid. And I think he's an upgrade. And I think he's quality at FAMU. They just had Musa. He just left. That was the Vanderbilt transfer. FAMU's been winning a ton. They lost one game this year to South Florida. And last year, when they lost their first two games, they won 10 in a row. So, like, they've won a ton of games. They might lose their head coach to be the running back coach at Duke. But Daniel Richardson can play some football. And I think he's of the caliber of FAMU. He's of the caliber of HBCUs and the SWAC and things like that. So, I really like this move. I think it's fine. Shout out to Daniel Richardson for being realistic about his opportunities and trying to be on the field and see the field and not sit on the bench and just to be stubborn to be close to home. Brady Olson leaving UMass. On my last video, I talked about him in the first video. I said he was going to die in the portal. I was wrong. He did not die in the portal. He got an offer. Central Connecticut came out and said, Central Connecticut State, said, we'll take you. This is a guy who went 0 for 3 this year at UMass. 0 for 3. I thought he would never do it again. I'll never understand it. More power to him. Going way down in competition, obviously. So it worked out. Jonathan Bennett leaving Liberty, going to the Citadel. This is just going to a school closer to home. Didn't play at Liberty at all. But he's from Summerville, South Carolina. And if you ever look at a map, the Citadel is near Charleston. And the Citadel's Charleston. He's really close to his home state. He's really close to being home. That's all I'll say. So this is returning close to home, but you're going to a military school. Citadel is a military school, Skylar Locklear moving from Austin Peay, going to UTEP. I don't think he's a UTEP caliber quarterback, but his head coach just got hired, and he's going to go follow his head coach. And he was the backup at Austin Peay this year. He's going to UTEP. He got a scholarship. More power to him. Congratulations. Your head coach said, hey, come over here. I see the guys. They're bad. I already talked about Stone Earl. And the last guy I want to talk about before I get to the chat is Carlos Davis here. Carlos Davis is leaving UMass, going to Townsend. Now, I talked about Carlos Davis in the first episode. Check this out. Listen to what I said about Carlos Davis. Where do I have it at? Right here. Check this out. And then you got Carlos Davis at UMass. He never played, and he played very little. And the thing about it is I like it. If you guys don't know this, you see he's in purple. He used to play at Western Carolina, FCS school. He was good at Western Carolina. So you're a good dual-threat guy at Western Carolina. We say, hey, you've been playing. You're going to transfer to UMass and be the guy? No. Remember, he's a last chance U kid. He's from Baltimore. I like Carlos Davis for a lot of reasons. But he also, he went to Scuba, Mississippi. But I think he belongs. This year for UMass, he went 6 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. I think he belongs at, Townsend. I think he belongs in the FCS, and he'd be good at the FCS, but not all that good at the FBS, right? It's the reality. Now, who's not on this chart? I'm going to tell you who's not on the chart.
So, I said I think he belongs at Townsend, and there's no crystal ball. There's nothing. It's just my feeling like he belongs in a regional school where he's from at the FCS level. And guess where he's committed to, guys? Towson. So does he watch the show, or do I just know what the hell I'm doing? That's all I'm saying. And that was in the first episode. If you go back, I broke down the whole list. So I talked about all of the commitments now. We've talked about every single quarterback that's committed. There's something else I want to do before we get started. I'm going to go to the chat, and then I'm going to come back and look at the quarterbacks who are uncommitted, who's available right now, and the top unavailable quarterbacks. And I'll talk about some of them slightly. I don't want to go into detail because I will when they commit, okay? But let me go back to the chat one last time, and we'll see where we're at from here. Where did I stop on the chat? YouTube doesn't allow me to monetize. That's correct. This was ignorant statement by Mendenhall. Cam Ward is down to Miami. Yep, there we go. Here I am. I'm not accusing or defending Seaton's comment. Coach Prime said in an interview that he gave a lot of authority to his coaches last season and will be more involved this season. Drake Lindsey is good. Nate Johnson should have gone to Fresno State. Exactly. Hayden Orschland. That's not true. It's between the draft and FSU. He told the FSU staff that he'd probably go into the draft. Go Curtis Rourke. I agree. Utah quarterbacks are terrible. I saw him play. They only use him in run plays. Correct. Nate Johnson must have listened over the offseason where you said you can't start somewhere to transfer to the SEC. Yes, Evan Kramer, I do say that, but I was being facetious. I'm not racist, but I am a nationalist. Well, not really. Our prime minister is a dweeb. Oh, you're from Canada. I forgot. Well, anyway. I mean, SEC usually have the worst quarterbacks out of all the conferences. Why not add one more? 1/4 of NFL teams seem to think the SEC provides okay quarterbacks. No, the SEC does not provide okay quarterbacks. They get transfers who then the SEC gets to claim. Don't forget it. SEC has athletes playing at quarterback. Jalen Hurts an example. See, there you go. Is Jalen Hurts an SEC quarterback or is he a Big 12 quarterback? Because are we going to count where the quarterbacks graduate from or where they started? If that's the case, let's talk about it. Who just won the Heisman? Is that an SEC quarterback or is it a Pac-12 quarterback? Plenty of quarterback busts everywhere. True, they're proven. Yep. Hidden gem. The transfer portal quarterbacks tonight. Please limit questions to portal quarterbacks. Thank you so much if you're deleting comments that weren't about quarterbacks. What do you think, FAMU head coach talking a running back job? I've made videos about it. Is that a good downgrade? No, it's not a downgrade at all. When FAMU was getting recognition and getting Florida State players to transfer for them, it doesn't matter. It's a pay increase. It's about a $200,000 raise annually, and no one in this entire room would turn away a 66% raise. So if you were making, $50 an hour, and then somebody offered you $90, you take it, right? There's no other way around it. It's just a pay jump, and it gets you in the doors to then get a job at the FBS level. Those other jobs just pay so much more. Running backs coaches make a ton more money. Both former Mizzou quarterbacks that entered the portal, Johnson and Garcia. Also, do you think they will add a backup quarterback in the portal? Connor, I'm not sure. I'm not sure at all. I think they really like Sam Horn, so they're good there. They have a good backup quarterback. Sam Horn is better than both those guys, and it shows. So shout out to them. What's my prediction on Arch Manning? Will he sit on the bench again next season, or will he transfer in January after the Bowl National Championship? I think he'll sit the bench. I think he'll sit the bench, no problem, and eventually become the starter in about 2 years. Gunnar Stockton needs to transfer to a school like Vandergrift to get playing time. No, I think Gunner's the next one in line. I think Gunner's going to be the starter once this next season goes through. So Gunner's going to start for 2 years. That's how that goes. All right, guys, so I want to talk about who's available. So obviously Cam Ward's here. No big deal. Number one quarterback in the portal. Love everything about him. I've been talking about him for 2 years. The fact that everybody now claims he's great really bugs me because I talked about it for 2 years. Everyone ignored me when he was an incarnate word quarterback, when he transferred to the FBS, when I said he would dominate at Washington State, when I used every example that Shedeur Sanders would be successful in the Big 12 in the Pac-12. Every example I used was Cam Ward leaving the FCS and dominating the Pac-12 in his first year. I felt Shedeur Sanders would do the same thing, and he obviously did. So it bugs me now that people claim he's great. Malachi Nelson, I don't understand why he's ranked this high. Obviously a high school prospect, but he's done nothing to warrant a ranking up here. It's just they're talking about how many years you have left as opposed to being better. He's not better than any of these quarterbacks listed. None of them. Okay? He's somewhere down here if we're talking about talent. But even then, Reese Poffenbarger is better than him, and it ain't close. Like, Reese Poffenbarger is way better than most of these guys listed, and it's not close. So there's that. Will Howard,
Stud quarterback, kept it going. If you go back and watch some tape on Will Howard, he's actually really good. He's physical. He's big. He can run. He broke for like an 80-yard run at one point. They still have him 100% to USC. I think he's an Ohio State guy, but if they keep saying USC, they must know. They must have talked after the visit. He did a visit, and they think very highly of him. DJ Uiagalelei, he's going to go somewhere. He's going to go somewhere. Congratulations to him. He is a starter. He does have NFL traits. Don't let them fool you guys. DJ Uiagalelei has NFL traits that some NFL coaching staff somewhere is going to take a chance at and actually try to develop him. So don't ever get that twisted. He's the number 3 quarterback coming out that year. It was Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud, DJ Uiagalelei. And DJ was second, by the way. Stroud was third. Jordan McLeod. This is the kid that's really confusing me right now. Jordan McLeod, 3,600, 3,400-yard passer this year, dominating at JMU, had them undefeated for a majority of the season, and your coach just got hired in Indiana. And instead of bringing you, he's taking Rourke. He's taking Curtis Rourke instead. I want to know what is that about? Like, is he a bad locker room guy? Is he not a leader? Does he not lead your offense correctly? Because I think Jordan McLeod is a great player. When I watch him on the field, that looks like a quarterback I want on my favorite team. So I don't know if he's looking for a bigger opportunity and not interested in Indiana. I don't know what teams still need quarterbacks. For me, Jordan McLeod should be starting at Rutgers. Rutgers should be intimately interested in him. I think he's better than Drew Aller at Penn State. I think he's better than maybe a Virginia quarterback for sure. You can't take Anthony Colandrea into next season for Virginia. Is Tony Muskett still have a year of eligibility left? Like, I'm thinking about stuff like that. I think he could start at Maryland. I think he's better than MJ Morris. He's a very good quarterback. It just kind of irks me that he doesn't have it figured out, or hopefully there's a bigger program interested in him, because I like everything I see from Jordan McLeod. Is North Carolina interested in him? They just signed Max Johnson. Never mind. Who is going to sign this young man? Because he belongs somewhere. South Alabama, Rutgers. Those are my biggest 2 prized possessions when it comes to like quality programs that need a new quarterback. South Alabama and Rutgers. Go get a quarterback in the portal, please. KJ Jefferson, absolute stud. Only better running quarterback than KJ Jefferson out there is Matthew Sluka, right below him. Matthew Sluka, the FCS man, thought he was going to follow his head coach, and his head coach just got hired at JMU, by the way, and he still has not signed. He is probably getting interest from Nebraska, probably getting interest from other schools. Matthew Sluka is a back-to-back 1,200-yard rusher, a real dual-threat quarterback, one of the baddest motherfuckers. Like, you turn on the tape on Matthew Sluka. Go turn on the tape against Boston College last year. Go watch Matthew Sluka do the damn thing. He's great, man. That kid's a stud. If you can watch highlights, film, anything, Matthew Sluka to me, one of my favorite quarterbacks in the portal. Ty Thompson, been at Oregon for a couple years. Never got developed into anything productive. Don't know shit about it. Don't have any clues interested. I think he's a 4-star kid who will not go down in competition, and he should. He should be at Sacramento State right now, balling. That's what Ty Thompson should be doing, but he's not. I promise he's not going to do it, but that's what he should be doing. Robbie Ashford going back to Auburn, they say. He jumped in the portal. They say he's going back. What's that about? He's not playing. Peyton Thorne's out there sneaking it up. This is weird. Jaden DeLara, lost your job, beat a sexual assault charge, whatever. I don't know where he's going to go. Should go to NAU. Be the starting quarterback in Northern Arizona, bro. Chandler Morris, always been a good quarterback. He played really well against Baylor one year. Very injury prone. Not reliable because of his injuries, but he's a good player. I don't know where he's going to go. He's a good player. Bryson Barnes might end up at ECU. Bryson Barnes might end up at a smaller school in the Sun Belt or the MAC, or, he's going to end up somewhere like that. It's a blue-collar kid. We'll see what happens. Reese Poffenbarger, I hope he's going to Rutgers. This guy can throw all day long. Shout out to Albany. This is a good quarterback. Ethan Kaliakmanis, not built for the Big Ten. Probably a MAC quarterback. I hope Western Michigan's calling him. A MAC quarterback for sure.
Drew Pine, they say he's going back to Notre Dame to finish his degree. He's not going to play football this year, and then he's going to play football the following year. So he's literally just going to be an academic student hoping to get his degree and wait one more year. I don't know what the hell that's about. Jeff Sims, go to FAU, bruh. Go to FAU. Go play for Herman. Go do something else. I don't know. Chuba Purdy, FAU too. I don't care. Go to FAU, both of you. Diego, I don't know where he ends up. I've been following this very closely. This is a guy who just won 10 games at New Mexico State. He does have character concerns, but they're weird ones. If you guys don't know, he got caught on camera pissing on the New Mexico Lobos logo. So he pissed on the logo. He's a tough quarterback. He wants to beat people up. He's a state championship wrestler, just like Barnes is, Bryson Barnes. Yeah, Diego's tough as nails, bro. But he's gotten offers from schools. He got an offer from Washington State. I hope he doesn't take that one. I hope he takes an offer where he can, without a doubt, be the leader of the team and be the starter. Because he doesn't have stereotypical quarterback mechanics. He doesn't look like your normal quarterback. He just doesn't. He's Diego Pavia, man. He's tough. He'll run and get a first down, though. He did dominate and beat the shit out of Auburn. I watched him win us. He won MVPs more money than you could ever imagine. We bet on him every week, and he came through in the clutch. I just knew the kid when I watched him play, and I knew that's a starter, that's a stud, and it is what it is. So, more power to him. Tyler Buckner is committed to Notre Dame. He's going to go be a lacrosse player at Notre Dame, so he's going back to be the lacrosse player. Jay Garcia is sitting in the portal. Clay Millen, former starting quarterback at Colorado State, lost his job to an injury. He got hurt, and then a kid came in, BFN, Braden Fowler Nicolosi, a great high school quarterback in Texas. Braden Fowler Nicolosi takes over the job as a true freshman this year and never looks back, and he's been playing great. Clay Millen now has to jump in the portal. When Clay Millen was a starter, he wasn't bad. He was a starter all 2022, so that's something different. Another guy who lost his job due to injury, Jerry Bohannon here, former Baylor quarterback, transferred to South Florida, showed up, was a leader in the locker room, was one of those guys that everybody liked, and then you got a new coaching staff. Alex Golesh comes in and goes, all right, well, let's see what we got. And they decided they got a redshirt freshman better than everybody. So they just said, you know what, Jerry, you're not playing this year. They didn't play him at all. He's got 1 year of eligibility left. I wonder where he goes. Like the kid. All right, I'm not going to keep going down the list because I've already talked about a lot of these guys, and I'd rather talk about them once they commit. I know I talked about some of these guys in the past episodes. So once they commit, I'll bring them up and I'll talk about them. I just wanted to give you guys a quick rundown on what's available still. So more power to them. Let me get back to these questions, then we'll end the show. Rico got that. Gunnar Stockton needs to transfer. As a Georgia guy, are you more impressed with Aaron Nolan or Raiola? As a Georgia guy, I am not impressed with either one of those quarterbacks. Joe, for me, the best quarterback in the state is Aaron Philo. Aaron Philo is the very best quarterback. He goes to Prince Avenue Christian. He's committed to Georgia Tech. He just broke the state record for passing yards and touchdowns and everything. Just won back-to-back state titles. He's far more accomplished, far more pro-ready than Aaron Nolan and Raiola. Now, he's going to get to Georgia Tech, not compete for the starting job. He's going to redshirt, and he's going to get to sit back and relax. But don't get it twisted. I think he's better than both those quarterbacks, in my assessment. And I've watched every single one. Well, I haven't seen Raiola's entire career. I watched every snap of Aaron Nolan's high school career, and I watched every snap of Aaron Philo's high school career. I think Aaron Nolan is not the same quarterback that Aaron Philo is. And it doesn't matter. Aaron Philo is just going to stay close to home and go to Georgia Tech, and I think he's the future, man. I think he's great. He's a stud quarterback. Go and watch. Go to, if you guys don't know, you can go to GPB Sports. Hopefully, you can go up here, gpb.org, sports, and then once you get in here, you can go to On Demand. On Demand, close this shit out, and you can go to On Demand, go in here, go to championship games, football championships, hit apply, and then you can see all the state title games. And what you'll see, this is from last year. So you can go down here and see Prince Avenue Christian against Swainsboro back in 2022. Aaron Philo plays out of his mind in this game. You can watch the whole thing. And then obviously this year, if we go back to On Demand, I'm saying it's in here somewhere. Might have to go back, load more. I don't know what the hell this is. I don't want to see no damn marching bands. Here it is, state title games. And you can see the 1A state title game, Aaron Philo, in this game right here. Prince Avenue Christian rematch against Waynesboro again. You can watch these games, and you can watch Aaron Philo. He's just amazing. So if you don't know all the resources and all the websites to go to, reach out to me, TikTok, wherever, and I'll help you guys out. Back to this. Is there a committed quarterback that just committed to a bad situation for his skill set? Yeah, so on the SWAT, I talked about it during the episode. Obviously, Fife, not going to make it. Don't think he's very good. DeQuan Fenton, don't think it's a good fit. Nate Johnson, not a very good quarterback for Vandy. Don't think it's a good fit. Not impressed with it. I have no idea how A.J. Swan's going to see the field at LSU. I think it's a dumb transfer. Not impressed with it. I think it's dangerous what M.J. Morris is doing by going to Maryland. I don't know how well he's going to do. Some more bad fits are, I don't know what Jabari Johnson's doing. It's not a good fit. He's never going to see the field. He's going to sit the bench. Destin Wade will never be a quarterback for Colorado. Just not happening. Not there. Bo Allen going back to get his degree. Not a good fit. Yeah, those are all the big ones for me. Just don't make any sense whatsoever. Those are all the ones so far among the quarterbacks. Obviously, there's other position groups that are the same, but yeah, right now that's where I'm at. Is there a committed quarterback? Okay, you keep saying you want South Alabama to grab a quarterback in the portal. Do you not like what you've seen from Gio Lopez? Just curious. So Gio Lopez is the backup quarterback at South Alabama. Love what I've seen from Gio Lopez. I just think there's better quarterbacks available. That's all. I think there's better quarterbacks. I think there's studs out there that you can sign, and there'll be an improvement at your position. You never want to be afraid of improving. But I like Gio Lopez a lot. Would like the video to help support the channel. Yeah, if you guys ever want to support the channel, you can become an MVP on Patreon. That's one way to do it. You know, you want to tip me $25, you can do that. That's one way. Another way to do it is to like this video in YouTube. And the way you like it, there's only 2 likes on this video right now, is you click out of the chat. You can tap your screen, can close the video out, and then go back into it, and it'll give you an option to like the video. And you can like this video. It'd be important if you guys like it. That's how we get more people in the live streams. So we'll be fine. Sorry, Rico, off to work. May have said something. How do you feel about Tennessee, and should they get a portal player to start? Or no, Tennessee has their quarterback situation figured out. Thank you for asking. There's nobody in the portal better. Is Miller Moss the next guy up? Joe, we're going to find out. We're going to find out. He played great, and I think he did the best he could. You couldn't have asked for a better performance with an undermanned team, and he played great. He's been loyal. I think he's pretty damn good. So, hey, guys, thanks for hanging out with me on New Year's Eve. I hope you learned about the transfer portal. I hope you learned about all the quarterbacks that are available or that already committed. Remember, your friends don't know, but Rico knows. Good luck, y'all. Happy New Year. I'll see you guys in the next running back episode. Hopefully we hit and we talk about all your favorite players.
Move I've only seen from time to time in my dreams. I do this for you. I do this for my mother, who's finally clean, no longer a fan. I do this for you. I do this for my sister, my wife and my kids, cause they part of the team. I do this for all the naysayers and haters who made me one of the greatest. I know it kills you inside, that's why I do this for you. I do this for my father, who I've only seen from time to time in my dreams. I do this for you. I do this for my mother, who's finally clean, no longer a fan. I do this for you. I do this for my sister, my wife and my kids, cause they part of the team. I do this for all the naysayers and haters who made me one of the greatest. I know it kills you inside, that's why I do this for you.
I do this for the kids who sit a bit outside the mix, who maybe cope through humor just to fit in for a bit, who never let the world know when depression's setting in. To all of those who know you, that impression don't exist. And it ain't counterfeit, it's just a way to counter it. I'm living things I dreamed about, I still encounter it. It ain't something that a cigarette or alcohol can fix, but all because of it, I flipped it quick, went on to write some hits. This a success, off another breath. This the first step in searching to be nothing less than be the best in what you do to prove their strength in being you. Learn so much in chasing dreams that I never would in school. Depends on where your passion lie. Just no passion never lie. Life presents distractions, but your actions have to fortify. The things that you believe in have to scream it like a battle cry, and leave the ones who didn't looking stupid while they're asking why. Couldn't lie, I really do this for the ones I love. Those who treat the music as a vice and lyrics like a drug. Those who need advice on how to lift their spirit high enough to break out of the box they make up.